Okay, Vino Madonai Eloheinu Aleinu Maaseh Adenu Konina Aleinu Maaseh Adenu Koneu. Like to begin the Shaare Orah. We have Labor Day today, so it's Monday, so we have late prayer, so we're going to do the Shaare Orah. We're basically on the thumbnail version of the Shaare Orah. We are on page Resh Kaf Gimel, and we're on Kof Yud Zayin. Ki'ilu Mikayem et Kol HaTorah. So when a person is Shomer Shabbat, it says this Ki'ilu, it's as if he is Mikayem, he is fulfilling the entire Torah in its entirety. Let's understand that. Ki'ita b'midrash, as it says in Midrash Shmot Rabbah. Amar lehem HaKadosh Baruch Hu leYisrael. God told the Jewish people, Im tisku lishmor Shabbat, if you have the zichut to be Shomer Shabbat, Ma'aleh ani alechem, I'm going to count it for you. Ki'ilu shimartem kol hamitzvot shebat Torah. It's going to count it as if you fulfilled all of the mitzvot in the Torah. Vim hilatem ota, and the opposite, if chas v'shalom, a person is profaning the Shabbat, Ma'aleh ani alechem, I'm going to count it for you. Ki'ilu hilaltem kol hamitzvot, as if you profaned all the mitzvot. So we see that there's certain mitzvot that have the weight of the entire Torah with them. Shabbat, an example. Brit Milah is another example. That it's basically the weight of the entire Torah is with this mitzvah. Continuing on, the Katav Ramban. The Ramban wrote in Parashat Shemot by the Aseret HaDibrot. What does he write? Amru Hazal, our rabbis taught in Masechet Hulin, Shabbat shekula keneged kol hamitzvot shebat Torah, that the Shabbat is equivalent, shekula, which is balanced with all the mitzvot of the Torah. Kamosh amru ba'avodah zarah, like it says in Masechet Avodah Zarah, mipnei sheba na'id al kol ikarei ha'emunah. Because with the Shabbat, we are testifying to all of the essentials of the emunah. Okay. What does it mean we are testifying to all the essentials of the emunah? What are the essentials of the emunah that the Shabbat is testifying to? B'chidush, u'behashgacha, u'banevuah. Chidush is what? Chidush is that the world was created new. The world did not always exist, but the world is created new. That's Chidush HaOlam. Hashgacha. Hashgacha is that God is mashgiach on the world. He is involved in the world. He didn't just set it in motion and then leave it alone to be done, to go on its own like autopilot. And banevuah, with prophecy, specifically that everything we receive in the Torah was through prophecy. Okay, ready? So he said, oh, you're joining. Please, Baruch Hashem, welcome. Okay, Hazak. So, just a quick introduction. This is a book called Shaare Orah, and basically discusses the names of God and what they mean. And in order to pray properly, in order to read the Pesukim, if a person doesn't know that it's not random that different names are used. So this book goes into detail about the different names, how there are 7 names that are not erased, but there are 10 altogether combinations of names. And those 10 correspond to the 10 Sfirot. And the book starts with the lower aspect and goes up. Starts with, we discussed this yesterday in the class, the book starts with the Malchut, which is corresponding to the name Aleph, Dalet, Nun, Yud, and then it moves up. Why? Because the goal here is Itaruta dilatata, which means uprising from below, not uprising from above, but from below. Tefillah is Itaruta dilatata. We are lifting ourselves and going through to the Shamayim, yes? So therefore we have to go through the Malchut. That's why we have Adonai Sefatai Tiftach Hofiyah Giti Latecha. Why is that pasuk we start the tefillah with? That pasuk is not technically part of the tefillah. It's not a bracha. Therefore, why is that pasuk there? Because without that key of the Aleph, Daled, Nun, Yud, the tefillah has no way to get inside. That's why we start with that pasuk. That's discussed in the Gemara Masechet Berachot. So we're discussing the concept of the Shabbat, and the Shabbat we discussed last week is yesterday Shekula Kol Torah. the Shabbat is the equivalent of all the Torah. Now the Ramban is explaining the Gemara. It's explaining the pasuk in Sefer Shmot in the Aseret HaDibrot that the rabbi said Shabbat shikula keneged kol mitzvot Shabbat Torah. That the Shabbat is the equivalent, is balancing all the mitzvot. Meaning what? A person is Shomer Shabbat, it counts as if he followed the whole Torah. A person Mehalel Shabbat counts as if Mehalel the whole Torah. Okay, that's what it says there. And why? What's so amazing about the Shabbat? It is me'id, it is testifying, it is testimony al ikare ha'emunah, on the fundamentals of the faith. What are the fundamentals of the faith that Ramban brings it? The Shabbat is testifying to. Hidush. What is hidush?
Renewal.
Meaning? What's renewed? What's new?
Created.
The world.
Creation itself.
Tuesday. Okay, let's think. Why are we saying Tuesday?
Okay, so Tuesday is auspicious, right? For creation. I know that because my Bubby told me. Like,
so Tuesday has Kitov twice. So what makes Kitov Tuesday special is that has Kitov twice, because Monday, it doesn't say Kitov. Right? Every other day it says Kitov, except for Monday. Friday it says Kitov Me'od. So Tuesday picks up the Monday's Kitov, and there's two Kitov twice on Tuesday. Why doesn't Monday have Kitov?
Yes, sir, I was created.
Why doesn't Monday have Kitov?
People are just warming up again.
Darkness. There was.
What's the Mizmor of Monday? That's the remez. Lam natseach livnei korach mizmor. Why is that the Mizmor for Monday? Because Monday represents mahaloket, disputation, separation.
The separation of the water.
In the Shamayim, what happened on Monday? There was the Mayim me'al rakia, Mayim mitachad rakia. The rakia was created as a separation between the waters above and waters below. Even though that was a completely necessary thing for life to be on earth, if you understand that from a simple meaning, yes. Without that, there's no life on the earth because we're not fish, we can't live in water. Even though it was necessary, it's not tov. It's not ra, but it's not tov. Why? Because anything that is separation is considered to be lo tov. Now, right? So we see what happened, but there's one exception to that. Which is the exception that the lo tov was separation was actually the tov? Not so difficult.
Separation of man and woman.
Separation of man and woman. Separation of man and woman. Lo tov heyot adam levado. It's not good for man to be alone. Now, Baruch Hashem, we have a lady here. Now, what is it? So, how is this possible? We just learned that separation is lo tov. Here, the pasuk is saying what? Lo tov is the fact that they're together. Because we understand that man was initially created as a hermaphrodite. Man was originally created with both masculine and feminine parts together. Why? Why did God do it like that?
Oh, so the woman is complete, so he finds the key to
open. Before we get then hold on.
I hope you're recording this.
It's recorded. It's on YouTube. Yeah. Why is it that God created a zachar and nekeva bara otam, masculine and feminine? He created. Adam was a combination of man and woman. Why? Why did God create man that way? Because man is created b'tzelem Elokim, and he didn't want people to think that what? That there's two in the Shamayim. So therefore he created man with both masculine and feminine together, so they would also understand the stupid question, is God a man or is God a woman? Stupid question. God is both. Or neither, depending on how you look at it, okay? Which means there is masculine qualities and feminine qualities. We have Kucha Brichu, which is the six sfirot, that is the masculine. And we have the Nukva, we have the Shechinteh, which is the feminine. That is the Shekhinah, is the feminine presence of God. And we have the Binah. The Binah is the feminine presence of feminine, yes? So we understand that even amongst the sfirot, there are some that have masculine qualities, and there are some that have feminine qualities. So coming back, why is it lo tov? Why is it lo tov heyot adam levado? He's making a separation. This is very important when it comes time for Rosh Hashanah from a Kabbalistic point of view. What I'm saying right now is very important to understand on Rosh Hashanah. Why was it good to separate Adam and Hava? Generally, separation is not good. Here, the combination of Adam and Hava together was lo tov, not ra, lo tov. The tov was what? Tov me'od. What is tov me'od? When he had them separated from each other. Why is that tov me'od? Yeah, please, thank you so much. What does that mean? What does that mean?
They can
How was Adam and Hava created together?
From the rib?
No, be careful, we're going to get to the rib in a
one
second.
facing one way, one facing the other way.
They were ahor be'ahor. They were back to back.
That's what dogs do.
We don't like dogs. Dogs
No,
is not exactly
God. No, King David, I have King David, King Solomon at home. The dog and God, they mind me.
Kabbalistically, dogs is not exactly.
I'm a Kabbalist.
Well, listen. There's things about dogs that Kabbalah says is not very good.
Well, they need to elevate. That's why I'm here.
Okay, you're here not because you're here because you're a woman. You're a Jewish woman. You want to elevate. Not has nothing to do with the dogs.
You never know.
No, come on. No.
It.
Okay, so let's go back. So now when Adam was created, he was achor be'achor. That is not a way to relate to another person, right? What do you do when you have a couple and they're having shalom bayit issues and they go to see a therapist and they can't talk to each other because as soon as they start talking to each other, they fight. So what do? You take the two chairs and you have them face back to back. Why? Because now they talk, but there's no facial expressions. No one can see somebody rolling their eyes and things like that. And there's no the trigger. You can still trigger with the mouth enough, yes, but you've taken away the visual triggers. Okay? Go ahead.
Why you pray 3 times a day? Because men inherently, that's why men and women are also separated in shul during prayer, because women inherently energetically tempt men, generally speaking. And they need to focus on prayer. And then women their commandment is not to pray. They don't have to, they can, but they're not commanded because they already are so much higher up. Okay,
so let's be careful about that. So we're talking about a halachic point of view. What you said is not correct.
Please correct me.
No problem. That's what we're here to learn. So with the tefillah, generally women are absolved. Doesn't mean they can't do it, but they're absolved from time-related commandments. So take example, Kriyat Shema. What's a Kriyat Shema? When you go to sleep and you wake up, which means it's twice a day you have to say Kriyat Shema. There's a zman, there's a time for Kriyat Shema. It starts at sunrise and goes until 3 hours into the day, right? So anything that's related to time, women are peturot, are absolved from those mitzvot. They can do them, but they're absolved. They don't have to do them. Tefillah from the Torah is not a time-related commandment. It says, "Ul ovdo b'chol levavchem v'chol nafshechem." You should worship Hashem with all of your heart and with all of your soul. What is avodah shebalev? What is worship of the heart? That is prayer. The Torah doesn't give a time for prayer. Therefore, the time for prayer is any time all day long. So therefore, now what the rabbis did is they recognized that there were certain weaknesses, perhaps you could say, of men. Okay, women have a clock every month. They don't need a reminder that time keeps on slipping into the future. They don't need that. No, New York originally. So they don't need that. They have that built-in time clock. So therefore, they don't necessarily need to be reminded that time is slipping into the future. A man has to be reminded over and over again that time is slipping into the future. Therefore, they are required to do time-related commandments. Okay, women are absolved. So tefillah is technically not a time-related command from the Torah. So therefore, women are obligated to pray How many times? At least once a day. That's from the Torah. The rabbis then established that men pray 3 times a day, Shacharit, Mincha, and Arabit, yes? So therefore now it's time related for men, but let's say I just finished Shacharit, and I want to pray something now. I feel I'm in a difficult situation. I can open up Tehillim. I can pray. If I can get the kavanah together well, which now we have to ask ourselves whether you can, I can do something called tefillat nedava, except on Shabbat. I'm allowed to have an extra prayer, nedava. It's called a donation. So there's no, David HaMelech says, va'ani tefillah. What is va'ani tefillah? I am prayer. The Gemara learns from this, halavai, a person should be engaged in prayer all day long. What does that mean? It's not a formalized prayer. Even the Shemona Esrei is a formalized prayer, but that's not how originally it was. People would compose their own tefillot. So a person leaves the Bet Knesset, he gets into his car, please Hashem, allow me to arrive in my place where I'm driving to safely. That's called tefillah, which means a person should always maintain a connection to God. That is mental tefillah. So a person can be praying all day long and fulfilling that mitzvah, even they're not necessarily engaged in a formalized prayer. So prayer is for everyone because God expects everyone to have a relationship with him, men and women. How could women be absolved of the requirement to communicate with God? They can't be, because that's how you develop a relationship, through communication. So now we get Adam and Chava, they were created back to back. That is not the way to communicate. So therefore, lo tov heyota, it's not good the way man was made, which like this. God made him that way and says lo tov. And what does he do? Ezer kenegdo, vis-a-vis. The word negdo doesn't mean against him. It can mean against him. And sometimes that's exactly how she has to be against him, because he's doing something stupid. Okay? But at the end of the day, what is kenegdo? Like against him. Like kenegdo, which means really vis-a-vis. So therefore, the ideal relationship is panim bepanim, face to face. When a husband and wife are having a good relationship together, they're able to look at each other and communicate together face to face. Like the Keruvim. The Keruvim symbolize the Jewish people's relationship with God. The Keruv of God that represents God is always facing forward. It's only the Keruv of us that changes the direction based on our deeds. So that's the whole concept of the teshuvah. What's the concept of the teshuvah? I am now facing God. How am I facing God? By removing all my sin, by doing repentance. What I'm doing is fixing my relationship with God, and now it's back to where it was before. In fact, it's even better sometimes, because the place where a penitent is standing, a righteous person cannot stand. So we understand this separation of achor be'achor, this surgery that God did. He put Adam to sleep. In other words, he gave him anesthesia.
Well, she was there too.
And he separated the tzelah. Misinterpreted, or another deeper way to understand tzelah does not mean rib. Tzelah means side, which means he took the side of Adam, which means the side that was nekeva, was feminine, and he separated it out from him surgically. That word I just learned this week is called nesira, surgical separation. What is the purpose of that surgical separation? To allow there to be a face-to-face relationship. This is exactly what we're trying to do in the Yamim Noraim. We are trying to make a surgical surgery, because right now maybe we're achor b'achor chas v'shalom, where we don't have a solid relationship with God, right? Because our back is towards him, God forbid. Yes? What is the goal? To turn your back. What is turning? What's another word for turning? Teshuvah, shav, returning. Returning back to a situation where you are able to be panim befanim. That's called nesira, and that's basically the avodah of Rosh Hashanah is nesira, is basically making that surgical separation. If chas v'shalom, a person is in a situation where he's achor, his back is to God, to change that and make it face to God. Oh, wow. That was good stuff. Oh, Baruch Hashem, if I could say so.
Kelev, Kelva, heart.
Huh?
I went to Kelev, Kelva, heart.
Kelev. Right. Kelev is like Kelev. Okay, so what's your drasha on that?
You mentioned something about dogs, and I heard a correction somewhere in all my studies for a million years.
Okay.
You have all the answers.
I don't have all the answers. I have some answers. I don't have all the answers. Okay, let's understand that.
Dog's man's best friend.
Because humans let mankind down because of the Yitzhahara in the human body, while they're here to do the correction. And Jewish
so what makes
613 mitzvot?
Right?
How many can one human being do in one day, really?
Okay, but we don't have to do all 613. First of all, there's some I can't do. For instance, no matter how much I want to and try, I can't be a nida, so therefore I can't go to mikveh and make a bracha.
Okay.
Right? I can't bring Merkat Kohanim. I'm not a Kohen. In fact, since there's no temple, I can't do any of the mitzvot that have to do with sacrificial sins, which a lot of the 613, there you go. Yeah. So there are many, many mitzvot. First, there's certain mitzvot that you can only make if you sin. I'll give you an example. If a person steals, there's a mitzvah aseh to return what was stolen. Well, the only way you fulfill that mitzvah is first you have to sin. So, and that's against the Christians are so clueless. This Paul, the guy, he was swallowing too much Greek nonsense. Okay, what's the idea? There are certain mitzvot a person can only do through sinning.
Yes, and that's the highest of tzaddik. There's somebody stated in one of the Gemara that's not.
Okay, but no one advises to steal money so you can return it. That's not a good idea.
True, but guess what? Because I'm an investigator, I know to be real and true for our people, even against our own people. So I put the light where there's dark, and I look them in the eye, and I try to present it nicely, not in an intimidated way.
Baruch Hashem.
But the light has to penetrate, because often people feel self-righteous because, especially the males, they rack to fill in, they're coming 3 times a day, but they don't see that what they're doing might not be.
Okay, listen, I'd like to say that, well, self-righteousness is not a uniquely masculine trait. Anyway, so let's continue. So what is it about the Shabbat? Let's get back to what we're saying here. The Shabbat is keneged kol Torah kula. Means a person is shomer Shabbat. The Gemara says it counts as if he's fulfilling the entire Torah. Contrary, a person is mehalel Shabbat, violating the Shabbat. It counts as if he's violating the whole Torah. Okay, what is it about Shabbat? Because Shabbat is a testimony to 3 essential aspects of emunah. First one is hidush. What is hidush? That the world is created. Bereshit bara Elohim et hashamayim ve'et haaretz. Bara is creation. Creation is yesh me'ayin, something from nothing. And that's essential to understand. Because meaning what? Why is that so important? The Greeks did not believe that. Aristotle believed the world always existed. Okay? Why is that so important? Why? First of all, it's a lie that the world always existed. But why is that so important from a theological point of view to believe the world was created?
You need a master of the universe to follow.
That's why it's important. So you need a master of the universe.
Well, we came here to do Hashem's work.
So why does that? Okay, so why does that mean it's so important to believe the world is created?
Because then we have a bylaw from which.
What is the effect on God of things going on in the world? Nothing.
True.
The message is Ani Rishon Vani Aharon. I'm in the beginning and I'm in the end. Meaning, I was there before the world was created. I will be there after the world was created. And even in between, it has no impact on me. On the essence of God, there is no impact of the world. Right? No impact. No impact. Now, the way God set up the world is that we discussed this yesterday. He hides himself in the world, which means his revelation of his honor, of his kavod, of his glory, he makes it so that revelation is hidden. And it's the job of a Jew to reveal that to the world. Now, could God do it himself? Absolutely. He chooses, his ratzon chooses not to. And that's exactly what gives us avodah, service. So a person who believes in the hidush of the world has an understanding that the world doesn't have an impact on the essence of God at all.
True.
Good. Chidush, a person who thinks that the world has an impact of God, it's very serious. And the Shabbat testifies what? That for 6 days God created the world, which means what was there before the first day? Only God, called Ayin. What does Ayin in Hebrew mean with an Aleph, not Ayin? Aleph? Nothing. Now, is it really nothing? No. We discussed this yesterday. It's everything.
Yeah.
But nothing created. When we say ayin, we're referring to nothing created. Okay? Yesh me'ayin is something created from nothing. In Latin, ex nihilo. Something from nothing. Something created from nothing. That's what we're saying, yesh me'ayin.
And that's a woman taking a man's sperm.
Go ahead.
She elevates it.
First of all, that's the job of nekeva. The job of the nukva is to receive from the masculine and improve it. We discussed this yesterday. And distribute it. That is the job of the malchut, a keli, a vessel, empty, right? Filled with shefa, abundance. Then the malchut takes that shefa, improves it, and distributes it to the lower world. That is the role. That's why the malchut is the keter of the lower world. Keter malchut. What does that mean? The malchut is the lowest of the sphira of the world above. And at the same time, the malchut is also the keter of the sphirot of the world below. That is the function of the malchut. The function of the malchut is to take it from one world and transition it to the lower world.
So what's below the malchut of the lowest world?
This world. This is this world. Below the malchut of Asiyah, that's where we are now. We are in the malchut of Asiyah. Okay. So that's first thing, hidush. How important. That's why Shabbat is so grave. I mean, what's the big deal? A person mehalel Shabbat. So what? Mehalelei amot yumat. The Torah said. And how many times did the Torah say it? A lot. A lot. Which means it's not just a one-off situation. It says it a lot of times. Why? It's letting you know that Shabbat, Shmirat Shabbat, is an essential component of the emunah. Now, it doesn't mean a person doesn't believe in God and then is mehalel Shabbat. But how is the person's emunah strong, or what's required? What we read this past week in the Torah, it says, "Tamim tiyeh im Adonai Elohecha." What does that mean? The word tamim. What does it mean? Perfect. That was Paul's problem. Paul's problem was, how can you be perfect? You can't. There's no way you can be perfect. Paul was an idiot. He didn't learn in yeshiva properly, if he learned in yeshiva. No one can be perfect. We have a pasuk. En tzaddik ba'olam asher ya'aseh tov v'lo yeheta. There is no concept in the world of a tzaddik that does not make mistakes. What is the difference between tzaddik and rasha? Sheva yipol tzaddik v'kam. The tzaddik makes a mistake. Now, what does he do? She do? Gets up. Fixes it, makes teshuvah. The rasha makes the mistake and then continues making mistakes and lives his life as a rasha. The tzaddik, it's not that the tzaddik doesn't make mistakes. Tzaddik makes mistakes, but they fix them as soon as they make it or soon after. Recognize the mistake. That's the whole concept of the teshuvah. Okay.
This is the best day of my life.
Oh, Baruch Hashem. Me too.
You're making it very nice.
Me too. So, okay, so how did we get to that? So, okay, let's.
Caleb, heart. That's where you.
I didn't get to the heart. I'm still so on the hidush. The chidush of the world is essential because that means we recognize that this world has no effect on God.
True.
Okay. Next.
So the three things that you're made on Shabbat.
First is chidush haolam.
Number one.
Next. Hashgacha. Providence. Meaning what?
Divine providence.
See?
Anochi Adonai Elohecha asher hotzeticha me'eretz Mitzrayim. Ooh. Why doesn't the pasuk say Anochi Hashem Elokecha asher barati et haolam? Why doesn't it say that?
I don't know.
Really, it should say, I am the Lord your God that created the world. Which is a bigger miracle? Creating the world or getting the Jewish people out of Egypt? Clearly, creating the world is a bigger miracle. Why doesn't the pasuk say that? Very simple reason. We didn't experience the creation of the world. Right. Vayera el Avraham, el Yitzchak ve'el Yaakov, el Shaddai, ushmi yud kevav ke lo nodati lahem. Meaning what? They didn't experience yud kevav ke. They experienced El Shaddai, which means I make promises, and the promises are for your children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren. You're not going to experience those promises. The fourth generation, which is Moshe Rabbeinu's generation, will experience the promises were made. Here's another example. God in the entire Tanakh, through our wonderful prophets, makes promises about the end of days. But Yishaya, Yeremiah, Yechezkel did not experience that. We today are experiencing it. We are experiencing Yud Kei Vav Kei rising in the world and showing himself little by little. It would be faster if we would catch the message.
Really?
We don't catch the message. I said this before. And we learn from the Muslims because God sends an enemy, and the enemy has a trait, and they have a trait that's usually perverted and bad, but there's something we have to learn from the enemy. What should we be learning from the Muslims? It's the youth, you could say, tefillah 5 times a day, whatever. There is something we need to learn from the Muslims. What is it? When they kill Jews, Allahu Akbar.
You're saying
Akbar.
Hashem matter. Not
They
happier.
recognize their God, Allah, not our God. That's their God. Okay?
Allah just means God, though.
Stop. That's another topic for another day. Nonsense.
Tomorrow.
Allah was the pagan god of the Quraysh tribe, which was the tribe of Muhammad. He destroyed all the other gods and he left Allah. Its source is Avodah Zarah. And according to many of the sources, it's really Baal, but that's another discussion for another day.
But Rambam was.
I don't forget, Rambam doesn't know everything.
No, but wasn't he in Egypt?
The Rambam doesn't know everything.
I'm
Rambam knows what he knows. In the halakha, no one's arguing with. People argue with the Rambam halakhically. That's okay too. But there are certain things that the Rambam didn't have access to.
And how about India?
What about India?
There's a lot of stories that stem from India for Jews. And
Okay, our people went to lots of places. I can say that Islam is really the Jewish Christians that were thrown out of Jerusalem that basically made Islam.
yes.
Okay, but it's 400 years they were disconnected
So
from
they're
Judaism.
cousins from Abraham.
They're not cousins.
Okay, someone lied.
They're Gentiles.
Right, but they follow a Jew.
Sort of the idolaters called the Christians follow a Jew. That doesn't mean anything.
Well, that means we have to remind them that they must.
No,
listen
first
to
we
us.
have to remind ourselves. When we see bombing going on in Yemen, when we see the Israeli army going in bombing Sana'a and killing their entire leadership this past week, did we say, Adonai hu ha-Elohim, Adonai hu? Elohim, did we say that? No. IDF, the army. Yeah, no, you what?
Peace for all of God's children.
There right now there can be no peace. Very simple. How do you know? How do we know that 2.8 billion Christians are wrong? How do we know right now 2.8 billion Christians are wrong? Because they say the Messiah already came. How do we know they're wrong? And by the way, so do the Muslims. The Muslims think that Jesus was the Mashiach. How do we know 3.8 billion people are wrong? The majority of the world's population. No. Again, even if it's not in the Torah, let's talk about experience. How do we know based on experience that the Mashiach's not here yet?
Because we're not all peaceful and we're
Oh, lo yisa goy el goy cherev, lo yilmidu od milchama. So when we see that there's fighting in Ukraine and wherever the fighting is, we know one thing. Mashiach is not here yet.
He's coming.
And there's no second chance. There's no concept of, well, he's going to come, but he's going to fail, okay? And then he's going to come again. That is invention. Correct. Because they were disappointed that he didn't do the job.
It's like a fable.
It's a myth. It's a myth. Coming back to Judaism, you look at the Tanakh. Look at the Peshat of the. By the way, Rabbi Singer. Oh my gosh, one of my favorite internet rabbis. Oh my God. Tovia Singer. You have to watch the video that he put on. Yeah, he for the first time, I think maybe one of the first times, he was debating a Jew who became Episcopalian. Huh. It's 2 hours. Get yourself a big cup of coffee. Wow.
How do we find that?
It's on YouTube. Type in Tovia Singer, okay? YouTube. And if you want, I'll add the link in the book. I will. You're not my Boca Chat. Be'ezrat Hashem, when we finish the class, you'll give me your name. I'll put you in the Boca Chat that I have, and then I'll put that video. Wow. You have to. I sent it to you. No, I sent it to Sam. You have to watch it. It is incredible. But very simple. He says this amongst many, many other things. You know the Mashiach is not here when there's war in the world.
True.
And is it just a temporary peace? I mean, let's say there's no war right now. No, there's war that's pending. So when World War II finished, there was a Cold War. It's still war. It's just, it's a stalemate. The Korean War basically is not ended the war. It's called an armistice, which means it's still really going on. It's just we agreed not to fight anymore. That's not shalom.
And war just makes people money.
From the Torah's perspective, why is there war? Or I'll ask it a different way. From the Torah's perspective, what is going to end war? The UN? No. Donald Trump? He can try. No.
Mashiach.
What? Is some Mashiach's going to have a magic wand and he's going to wave it like Harry Potter and suddenly there's going to be peace? Everyone will recognize Yud Kei Vav Kei. Guys, everyone will recognize Yud Kei Vav Kei. That will end war. When everyone is bowing on their knees to Yud Kei Vav Kei, not Allah, not Jesus, not Buddha, not whatever. When every human being on the planet, man and women, Jew and Gentile, is bowing and talking to the one God, Yud Kei Vav Kei, then there is shalom. And how do we know that? Because, for instance, when a person says Shabbat Shalom, we discussed that a little bit yesterday, right? If a person's in a bathroom, are you allowed to say Shabbat Shalom?
No.
Why not?
Because it's the name of God.
Which is the name of God?
Shalom.
Shalom. Shalom is the name of God. Now, there are many, many names of God, but Shalom is a definite name of God, which means it's a kinui, which means Shalom is when God manifests himself, there's Shalom. Where was the first time after the exodus of Egypt we see war? Amalek. Why did that happen? Hayesh Adonai b'kirbenu im ayin. Is Yud Kei Vav Kei close to us or not? Okay. Now, you think I'm not close to Yud Kei Vav Kei is not close? Okay, now you're back into the war situation. Now you go do it yourself. Why is this? Why is it? We always, the Zionists, I'm not going to get into politics here. Reshit Smichad Geulatenu, the beginning of the birthing or the growth of the Mashiach, yes, of our redemption, How long is 80 years still Reshit? We have to ask ourselves a question. In the first 10, 20, 30 years, you could say Reshit Tzmichat Geulatenu. How are we still saying that now? Reshit? Is it better now than it was years ago? Maybe yes, maybe no. Because it has nothing to do with Zionism. It has to do with every Jew, first and foremost, recognizing Yesh Adonai B'kirbeinu. God is close to us. What did we just say? Hashgacha. The purpose of the Shabbat is to tell you what? You experienced Yetziat Mitzrayim. That was God. Yud Kei Vav Kei took you out of Egypt. It was your experience. That is Shabbat. And that's why we say on Shabbat, Zecher L'Maseh Breshit, and we also Zecher L'Tziat Mitzrayim. Shabbat has both Zecher. Zecher Maseh Breshit, which is the Chidush of the world. Zecher L'Tziat Mitzrayim. What's the message of Yetziat Mitzrayim? I am involved in the world. How much am I involved in the world? Every minute of every day in everyone's life.
True.
And it's a job of a human being, starting with the Jewish people, to recognize God is in my life, whether things are going well or sometimes things are not going so well. God is in my life. He cares. Cares. He is involved in my life intimately. And when we don't see it, when we don't see that involvement because we don't think we're experiencing it, what does God do? He sends us little reminders. He sends us reminders. By the way, you forgot about me. Here I am. What's the biggest reminder in Rosh Hashanah that God is in your life? Shofar. The shofar is the reminder. What is the shofar reminding you? The king is here.
True.
Now, wait a minute. The king is here all the time, not just on Rosh Hashanah.
Of course.
But Rosh Hashanah, we blow the shofar. Why? Because the goal is not for one to experience it themselves. What are we doing on Rosh Hashanah? We're not
adorning King.
We're not just keeping it to ourselves. We are proclaiming it to everyone.
Declaration.
We're not just saying, listen, before Rosh Hashanah, I believe in God. He's in my world. He's close to me. He's right there. Rosh Hashanah is about, hi, Gentile, how are you? By the way, Happy New Year. Well, it's not my New Year. I know you don't think it is, but really it is.
It is a universal New
It's
Year.
your New Year, as much as it is mine, because the New Year for the Jewish people is Rosh Chodesh Nisan. New Year's, Hayom Harat Olam. Today the world was born. Jew, Gentile, Rosh Hashanah is for everyone.
And all creatures.
Everyone.
All kingdoms.
Everyone. Therefore, when a Gentile says to you Happy New Year, please say back to them, and a Happy New Year to you too.
Yes.
But then they say, it's not my year. Then you say, if you want to say politically correct, according to our faith tradition, it is. And Bezrat Hashem, if you look at Zechariah 8:23, if you look at other places in the Tanakh, soon you will see that it is your year. Just because you think that New Year's Day is your New Year's, that's because you're believing a lie. Just because you think at the time of the Hijrah, that's the beginning of the year for you, that's because your religion is a lie. Why?
People listen and you respect them too.
No. This is a class of truth.
Okay.
This is not a class of applesauce and whatever. This is a class of truth, and we have to say the truth. They inherited lives from their father. How do I know it's that? How do I know it's the case? Because the pasuk in the Tanakh that says that.
Well, then we should hand them that.
We do.
Where?
You look at Jeremiah chapter 16, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, that's a hint right there. Say it
Don't
again.
bring a tree into your house.
Okay, the problem is here's the problem. If the Christians read the whole Bible, not just the parts that first of all, they read the Hebrew Bible. We don't call it the Old Testament. The Hebrew Bible, because there's nothing old about it, and there's nothing new about the new, because the new is nonsense. The Old Testament or the Hebrew Bible, if they read it its entirety, they could not be Christians.
Well, let's give them that.
Excuse me, it's been translated for 400 years in English.
Nobody
They
knows.
do know.
English,
They do
all
know.
languages.
Well, okay, it started with.
There's about 400 versions. Everybody has his own
Okay,
version.
let me ask you a question.
That's like multiple.
Let's just talk about this 1 second, okay? The translation of the Bible into English by the Christians, did that go over easy? Who did the translation?
Johannes Gutenberg?
Into English.
Who was the first one who made a publication that was King James, right? Who was King James? From what church? Protestant. Why Protestant? Because the Catholics did not want the Bible translated into English. They wanted it in Latin.
To control the people.
Right. Whereas what do? We take a little Jewish kid and we teach him Hebrew. From the time they're 6 years old, they're learning Hebrew. How many Christians from the time their children are learning Hebrew? If every Christian in the world realizes that the Bible, the Hebrew Bible is the Word of God, all 23,000 plus verses, why are they not learning Hebrew? You are handicapping them to read a translation, which is an interpretation. In fact, every Christian in the world should be learning Hebrew, a little bit of Aramaic, and ancient Greek, because the original language of their Bible is Greek. That's how you know it was not written by Jews. Jews did not write in Greek.
So the first translation was in Greek. The first translation of the Torah was in Greek.
They were forced. They didn't want to. They were forced. Now, in the Bible, in the Tanakh, it says, Ba'er Hetev. Moshe Rabbeinu, when he gave the Torah to Am Yisrael, was Ba'er Hetev, which means a good explanation. Rashi says, 70 languages. The goal of the Torah is to be translated properly for the purposes of getting close to God, understanding that there would be Jews in various lands that don't speak Hebrew. How are they supposed to come back? A Jew goes far away, his parents, grandparents, and then he wants to come back and access God. What do you need? He needs to learn Hebrew. Yes, you should learn Hebrew, no question about it. But what if the person's older, it's hard to learn the language, and you have to have a translation, an authentic translation.
True.
Now, so look at the lies. Christianity had the Bible translated into Latin and stayed in Latin for 1,500 years. Only Vatican II basically said it's okay that the liturgy in a Catholic church can be in English or another language. It was always in Latin.
That's why we have so many attorneys.
So now, take Islam. Another lie. The Quran translation when was the Quran translated into English? Really? English? You think you translated in English in 1500s? You mean the Quran was translated into English before the Bible was? No. Probably in the 20s, 1920s, 1930s. In fact, the final agreement on the version of the Quran that they say is the book that was protected in the Shamayim by Allah will never change, and not one word, not one diacritical mark, nothing. Okay, but the bottom line is the final agreed upon version of the Quran is 1927. 1927. Why 1927? Because after the Ottomans fell, they realized what's going to happen. Anyway. Let's get back to the Torah here. So we see here, first is Chidush, the fact that the world was created. That's number one. Hashgacha, that God is involved intimately in the creation. And last, Nivu'ah. What is Nivu'ah?
Prophecy.
Meaning?
Yeah, what's going to happen? Message for what's going to happen.
God has a mission for us. Did he say to you, go figure it out? If you figure it out, well, I'll give you a prize. If you don't figure it out, I'm going to give you a punishment. No. What did he do? He revealed his will through the prophets. Of course, most prophet being Moses. Har Sinai is the revelation of the Torah publicly, not in front of 3 crazy people or some yo-yo in the middle of upstate New York. Okay? 3 million people, men, women, children. That's how the Torah was given. There is no other religion like that. Prophecy publicly. Those are the 3 things through prophecy. Because how do we know that the world was created?
Yeah, we are.
Because I am here.
No. What was Aristotle's mistake? Because Aristotle's mistake was he thought the world always existed. What was what we had that Aristotle didn't have? We have something. It's called the Torah. And what does the Torah say? Bereshit bara Elohim et hashamayim ve'et haaretz. So we knew the world was created from what point of time? Hopefully from the time of Adam Harishon. But certainly once the Torah was revealed on Har Sinai, now we know the world is created. Why? Because it says so in the Torah. That's all we need. Okay.
And he says, this world.
Of course, the physical world. So these are the 3 things the Ramban says. Chidush, Hashgacha, Nevuah. That's what the Shabbat is testifying to. So a person who Shomer Shabbat means what? They're testifying to these 3 things. Ushloshet ikarim Elohim ikareh emunah. And these 3 essentials are essentials of the faith. Kmo shekatav beSefer HaIkarim. Who wrote Sefer HaIkarim? Rav Albo.
Chelbo?
Albo. Ayin Lamed Bet Vav Albo. About 1560, if I'm not mistaken.
Where's that word?
Where's what word?
Chelbo.
What word did you use?
Sefer Ikarim.
Oh,
That's the name of the book.
For the principle?
Rav Albo.
but you didn't get it.
Sheyud Gimel Ikarim Shel Rambam, because the Rambam has 13 principles, yes? Yigdal Elohim Chai V'Yishtabach. What's that from? That's the 13 principles of the Rambam, yes? Ikarim Shlosha, which means it's not that the Rishonim disagreed on what were the essentials of faith. They just counted them differently. That's it.
Wow.
They counted them differently. The Rambam gave specifics and said this and this. So the Rambam says you have to believe in prophecy, 1. And the other thing he says, you have to believe that Moshe's prophecy was better than everybody else's prophecy. He counts that as 2 levels of emunah. Other people say, no, that's 1. It's prophecy. Moses is the greatest, and all the other prophets are not as great. That's 1 level. It's 1. So how they put them together, okay? But nobody disagrees with any of the 13 principles. They just disagree whether or not there are 13 or 3 or 4 or 5. Inside these 3, Chidush Olam, Hashgacha, Nevuah, we have all of them. I'll give you an example. How do we know there's going to be a resurrection? Because it says so in the Torah. How do we know the Mashiach is going to come? It says so in the Torah. Therefore, it's all Nevuah. So once a person has Nevuah, now you just look and see what it says. That includes a lot of the principles. How do we know the Sachar ve'onesh, reward and punishment? Because it says so in the Torah. That's prophecy. So that's how. So we see that even though the Rambam has 13, the fact that here the Ramban says there are 3 that the Shabbat is testifying to, those 3 are inclusive of all 13 of the Rambam. Got it?
Wow. That's
Okay.
profound.
But aren't the 13 in the Torah as well?
They're all
Oh,
in
I'm
the
sorry.
Torah.
I'm not thinking Yud Gimel Karim or
No, that's the Rambam, how he divided them up. That's how he divided in his,
at the end of the Siddur, the end of Shacharit in the Siddur.
yeah,
That's the Rambam.
that's the Rambam.
See, so he knows more than you gave him credit for earlier.
I'm not, Rambam was one of the greatest rabbis we've ever had. But there are things that had nothing to do with halachic things that he made mistakes in.
Well, that's not what he was there to show. That's not what
Oh,
he was
well,
shown
but
for.
again, he even wrote it in his book. He wrote it in the Moreh Nevuchim. Many people don't read the introduction.
My mom
In
went on it.
the Moreh Nevuchim, he writes, everything I'm putting in this book is based on my logical mind. I did not receive a teaching for any of these things that are in this book, which means if somebody comes to you with a teaching that's different than what I said in this book, please put my book down and follow what the teacher tells you.
That's wise
That's extremely wise. That's also humble.
and humble.
Yes. People look at the Rambam and say, well, it's not in the Moreh. Okay, well, if it's Kabbalah, not Kabbalah from esoteric, from Sod, but if it's something that was received from a rabbi, that takes precedence. So in halachic arguments, which is more important, Svara or Kabbalah?
Hola.
Kabbalah. You have a logical derivation. That's wonderful. I receive from my teacher that's different, your svara falls away. Okay, and then I find the svara that fits what I said, and I'm good to go, right? Because svara is important, but not as more. The Kabbalah is more important. That's why. What's the first pasuk you teach a child? Torah tzivalanu Moshe morasha keilat Yaakov. The Torah is a morasha. What is morasha? Inheritance, which means we receive it. It doesn't come up with your own thoughts making up what it says inside. It's what is given over from rabbi to student since Moshe Rabbeinu. And where did Moshe Rabbeinu learn it from? God. That's all we need. That's all we need. That's why Rabbi Tovi Singer always says, I don't care what Pliny the Elder says. I don't care what Eusebius says. I don't care what Origin says. I don't care. I want to know, what does God say? And how do we determine what God says? 24,000 verses, 350,000 words. That's how we know what God said. Okay.
True.
Baruch Hashem. All right, we're good. So basically what happened in the Yud Gimel Ikarim of the Rabbi Albo, who came after the Rambam, he says the 13 principles of the Rambam are really in 3 categories. What are the 3 categories? Mitziut Hashem ve'emunah, the existence of God and faith. That's category number 1. Hashgacha v'sachar ve'onesh, providence and reward and punishment. Nevuah v'torah min hashamayim. That's the 3rd one. All of that, everything fits into one of those 3 categories. It says a person mehalel Shabbat, it's as if he is denying the faith. That's why the Torah is very strict about the Shabbat.
You're denying.
What's that?
You say you are denying.
You are the person who's mehalel Shabbat. Kekofer ba'ikar. It's like he is denying the existence of God. That's why halachically it says that unfortunate person, again, what does it mean mehalel Shabbat b'farhesia in public? That's a whole topic in of itself. So I'm not saying any individual Jew, okay? It's a person who knows and is rebelling. Okay? There are many people, unfortunately, that were not brought up religious. They're not brought up they don't really understand what the Shabbat is. And they're not Shomer Shabbat. Why? Because they don't really understand the beauty of the Shabbat. What's the solution to that problem? And what's the best? And how is a person supposed to, this is beautiful, how is a person supposed to know what the Shabbat is? Teaching them? You teach them? That's how they know?
You have to show them. Invite them over.
They have to experience it. Until they experience it, it's closed.
True.
Right? And we have to give them opportunities to experience a true Shabbat. And not just, in the morning and then they go drive home.
True.
A whole Shabbat.
Shabbaton.
Exactly. Give them an opportunity to, that's why I turn Friday night into Shabbat, or have a Shabbaton. That helps for people to experience the beauty of the Shabbat, the rest and the Menucha that we discussed yesterday. That is what, once a person experiences the Shabbat, then they're not going to give it up for anything. Okay, let's continue on.
This is the best day of my life.
Oh, Baruch Hashem. Mine too. I'm going to say it again. All right, now we're going to go back onto the top Shaare Orah. It says, V'da v'ha'amen. You should know and believe. Da is intimately know. Ha'amen is to believe, right? Ki ha'mishamesh mitato milelel Shabbat lelel Shabbat. A person who has relations with his wife or with her husband from Leil Shabbat to Leil Shabbat, which is the Onah of a Tamid Chacham. What is Onah?
Schedule. A time period.
Whose schedule?
Hers. Because
hers.
Oh, it's my schedule. We talked about that earlier.
Wow.
That's why men don't know.
Shaare. No. This is even better. You're going to like this one even better. Relax. Hold on a second. Shaare. Kesuta. Ve'onata. Lo yigra. That's the pasuk. When you have a mapik hey in Hebrew, what does that mean? Feminine possessive. When there's a mapik hey, there's a dot in the hey at the end of the word. That's called feminine possessive. She'era, her sustenance. Kesuta, her clothing and shelter. Onata, her time. We got it, guys. We got it, guys. We got it, guys. It's not your time. It's her time. And I always like bringing this up, so I've said it before, I'll say it again. It's a lo taseh in the Torah to subtract from any one of those three from a man's wife. Lo taseh, lo yigra. What is that? It's lo. It's a lo taseh, which means if I don't give my wife sustenance, if I don't give my wife clothing and shelter, I'm over on a lo taseh in the Torah. Very serious, yes?
Yeah. So
we understand the sustenance and the clothing and shelter. Why? Because that costs money. And some people are cheap. Right? And they don't want to pay. So we can understand the Torah saying it's a lo ta'aseh to subtract that from the wife. Unless the man has a problem with his plumbing, why does the Torah have to command him to have relations with his wife? Command? Why? Why? Really? Is that how men are built? They need to be commanded? That's like, well, it's not commanded, so I'm not going to do that. That's not how men are built. Men are built that commandment or no commandment. Sometimes they make mistakes because things are not commanded. They do, and they're not supposed to do, yeah? Why is the Torah saying her orah is a commandment on the man? If it was, it should be commandment on the woman. Why is it on the man?
Pre-game show?
No, it's not just the game, it's the pre-game show. That's the part that men have a difficult time with. And not just foreplay, but also the conversation and the flowers and all the other things to make it so that she's interested. Whose responsibility is that? It's his.
True.
Okay, she's going to come to every class now, Baruch Hashem. And it's very clear. There's no question about it. It's all about her. That's marriage. Okay, now that doesn't mean the woman has no responsibilities. Okay, she does.
And she can hire people.
But they're not. But those responsibilities are not mentioned in the Torah.
Can we add them?
They're not mentioned in the Torah. They're mentioned by the Chachamim. Generally, there are things that a wife does for her husband. That's what it says.
Or duty.
Out of love? No. Hopefully, love. I mean, it's supposed to be from love. It shouldn't be from duty. Okay, let's continue on. But these three things that the man is doing is out of duty, not love. It could be also out of love for sure. And there's no reason why we shouldn't love our duty. We should love the service we have to do for Hashem. But if you don't love it, it's still a duty. Okay, let's continue on. So it's talking about shimush mitah, which means the onah for Talmid Chacham, which means the time he has to be with his wife, is me'erev Shabbat for erev Shabbat. Yes? Zocher lebanim tzadikim. A man who has relations with his wife, Leil Shabbat, is zocher lebanim tzadikim, has the merit to have righteous children. Ki hashabat hi midat tzadik, because we said the Shabbat has the attribute of a tzadik, right? The yesod is the tzadik. Tzadik yesod olam.
Friday night 6.
Re'uyin lechaye. What does it mean a person is a tzadik? Ra'ui lechaye olam haba. A person who's not a tzaddik is not worthy for life in the world to come. How do we know that?
Because it's written in the Torah.
Okay, well, let's see how's it written. We have to know. Okay, the men have to know this. The ladies don't have to know where it's written, but the men have to know where it's written. We say it every day. Every day. Certainly on Shabbat. Kol Yisrael yesh lahem chelak leolam haba. Right? So it's a Mishnah in Masechet Sanhedrin. Every Jew has a portion in the world to come. Automatically.
Original scoop.
Shene'emar. When it says Shene'emar, what does that mean? Now we have to bring the pasuk that's going to prove that statement. Ve'amech kulam tzadikim de'olam yishu aretz.
They would get it as inheritance. It's a gift.
The
Every man gets
Amech
a gift.
Kulam Tzadikim. Your
everyone
nation
gets everyone
are
gets it.
all Tzadikim. So we see Olam Haba is for Tzadikim, not Rashaim. Okay? So a person who has relations with his wife on Friday night, since Shabbat is the concept of the Tzadik, therefore what? He has children that are Tzadikim, that are worthy for Olam Haba. Ki Shabbat hi sod El Chai. Shabbat is the sod of El Chai. El Chai is the name that's connected to the
Bina?
Yesod. El Chai. The Alav Ne'emar, Asher Piryo Yiten Be'ito. Tehillim. And on that name, it says, Asher Piryo, Asher Ish, Asher Lo Halach, Ba'asat Reshaim. Right? Ki im betorat Adonai chefzo yomam halayla ve'haya ke'et shatu al pagei mayim. Yes? That's a person, right? Ke'et shatu asher piryo yiten be'ito. What is piryo yiten be'ito? What is be'ito? In its time. When is its time? Friday night. Ulfichach amar Navi, and therefore the prophet said, Kiko amar Adonai, this is what God said, Lasarisim asher yishmeru et shabbatotai, to the ministers that are following, observing the Shabbat, ubacharu ba'asher chafatzti, and they pick what I have desired, umahazikim bivriti, and they are strengthening my brit. What's the brit? The Brit Milah. Therefore, we see the connection between the Shabbat and the Brit Milah. V'chi hasarisim hem hamishubachim beYisrael.
You're saying Sarisim?
Saris, no, it has two different meanings. Sarisim is eunuchs and Sarisim are ministers. Why is Sarisim? Why is the word Sarisim used as eunuchs? Because in order to be a minister in the king's house, many times they would force them to become a eunuch. Why?
So they wouldn't go after the queen or the princesses.
Even more, they won't go after the king.
They'll go after the king to get the queen.
To kill him.
To take the queen.
When you take a man's testosterone away, he becomes docile. So Sarisim ministers in king where they would have to be willing to give up the goodies. And first and foremost, because they wanted service. They didn't want the man thinking about taking care of business over there. Certainly not with the queen or any of the other women around. But even so, when you take off, when you do a snip, then he loses the testosterone, and then he loses the aggression. He has no cheshek. He's not going to kill the king. Just like the bulls. There you go. Just like the bulls. Okay.
Bulls or balls?
Bulls. He said bulls. Okay. Meaning what? Why the Sarisim? These are it's asked, is it that the Sarisim are the ones that are most praiseworthy amongst Israel? Because only the Sarisim are Shomrim Shabbat. What does that mean? If you want to understand that as a eunuch, what does that mean? They do not engage in relations except on Shabbat. So for 6 days a week, they are functioning as Sarisim, right? So they're saving for the Shabbat. Of course, we're not talking about Leil Tevilah. Leil Tevilah, whatever day it is, you have to have relations. It's not an option.
Even if you're a Tamei Chacham.
Even if you're a Tamei, you are not allowed to delay.
Because that's Lo Tigra.
Absolutely not. And that's also, she should be very careful. She's playing with fire if she delays.
The
Fire. Right? An example, Rosh Hashanah. A person is not supposed to have relations on Rosh Hashanah. Except if it's Leil Tevilah.
And
Leil Tevilah, he has to have relations. Yom Kippur, no. Mikvah's closed. Mikvah's closed. Okay? But on Rosh Hashanah, the mikvah is open. So if a woman has her Leil Tevilah on Rosh Hashanah, the husband has to have relations with her on Rosh Hashanah. That's exactly right. A man whose wife is not Leil Tevilah should not have relations on Rosh Hashanah.
And both nights.
Both nights.
Because even if it's Derabanan.
Both nights.
Oh, no, sorry, not Derabanan.
Okay. Ela Perusha Pasuk Kenu. This is the explanation of the verse. You have to go?
No.
Okay, good.
I have a question.
Well, question, please. What's your question?
Okay. Because I've been thinking lately authentically, not from Torah law specifically, but of a Kabbalist higher than myself. said to me, "You work over the summer to get ready for Rosh Hashanah, like from Shavuos, let's say, in particular."
Okay.
And if Rosh Hashanah gets you ready for creation, then
Okay.
you don't. So you want to receive when you receive it on Simchas Torah, not on Rosh Hashanah, because you would think that you'd want to conceive on Rosh Hashanah. It'd be reflexive, but you probably shouldn't until you've made Yom Kippur and broke.
So what do we when conceive? You talk about receiving the Torah. What are you talking about?
No, making a human.
Okay. Well, Leil Tevilah. That's it. There's no negotiation on that situation. When she finishes counting her 7 clean days, and it's time to go to mikveh, she goes to mikveh. He's obligated to have relations with her, except if it's Kippur or Tisha B'av. That's it. Any other time she has to have relations. There's no way around that. Okay. It's only when she's not Leil Tevilah, then it's Me'erev Shabbat, Erev Shabbat. Okay.
Thanks for the clarity.
No problem. Okay.
This is so cool.
Ela perusha pasu. So what is this asking? What is the connection? It's using what you said. Sarisim is Unix. It's using what is the connection between Sarisim and Shabbat? Continue on.
Isn't a Sarisim with the Samach though?
Oh, Samach, yes.
But a Sar is with the Sin.
And they're not interchangeable.
They are interchangeable. I've just
okay.
Otamat. Come from? You're like
Otamat tzadikim shekol shesh timeachol. Those tzadikim that all 6 days of the week, enam mishamashim mitotehem, they do not have relations those 6 days. Elahem kidimyon sarisim, they're like their eunuchs. Ubirele shabbatot mishamashim mitotehem, and on Friday night they have relations. Ki lashon yishmiru lashon ishahu. The language of yishmiru is the language of isha. Mikol asher amati ela isha tishamer. Wow. And he brings a pasuk from Shoftim that says we did learn this, by the way. We sort of learned this. Okay. I'll show you in a different way. Okay. When a person is rising up, when a person is getting close to God, we said you have to have the first sha'ar, the first gate. This book, what's the first gate? Aleph, Daled, Nun, Yud. That represents the feminine, the Shekhinah. Yes?
Yes.
So the way we get through to the Shamayim is through the feminine. Yes? The Shekhinah. Good. Okay. So now let's think about it this way. Mesilat Yesharim, written by a Kabbalist. Okay? His goal was for you to rise up so person can get Ruach HaKodesh, divine inspiration, to bring the resurrection of the dead. That's the whole purpose of the book. Okay? What is the first one of the 10 gates that he discussed? He starts with what? Zehirut. What is Zehirut? Meaning? What is the first rung? If the Mesilat Yesharim has 10 rungs on the ladder, what is the first rung? Zehirut. What is Zehirut? Watchfulness. Meaning what? You listening?
Mindfulness about what you're doing.
Guys.
Mindfulness. To be shomer.
Come on, you don't want to miss this. You don't want to miss this.
I'm writing Zehirut.
Okay, Zehirut. Zehirut means avoiding doing a lo ta'aseh. When the Torah, there's 2 kinds of mitzvot. One is a positive commandment, thou shalt do this. And the other one is a negative commandment, thou shalt not do this. Okay? When a person is getting close to God, where do you start? You start by not violating lo ta'aseh. Correct? We say in the pasuk, sur mera va'aseh tov. Remove yourself from evil and do good. Yes? What is ra? A person who's violating lo ta'aseh. What is tov? A person who's doing mitzvot ta'aseh. So since Mesilat Yesharim is a book that is written for a person to climb up the ladder, It starts with lo ta'aseh. Why? That's the feminine. Mitzvah ta'aseh is the masculine. Do we have another reason why women are peturot for mitzvot aseh shazman grama? Because mitzvot aseh are masculine. So of course the man should have more of those. It's a masculine concept. Whereas lo ta'aseh, there is no lo ta'aseh in the Torah that a woman is allowed to do that a man is. Lo ta'aseh, there's no difference. Okay. There are prohibitions and there are requirements. The mitzvot are divided into prohibitions. You're not allowed to do this. And requirements. You must do this. Yes? When we say women do not have to do time-related positive commandments, yes? But women are obligated in all the negative commandments, including the time-related ones. I'll give you an example. Shabbat. Is a Jewish woman required to be Shomer Shabbat?
Yes.
Yes. It's time-related. It's Saturday, not Friday, and not Sunday. There is no concept of mitzvat aseh. It's not a mitzvat aseh. It's not a positive commandment. The lo ta'aseh, even if it's time-related, okay, women are not allowed to do it. Lo ya'achel chametz. Is a woman allowed to eat chametz on Pesach? No. Even though chametz is only for the time of Pesach, it's time-related, but it's a lo ta'aseh. Since it's a negative prohibition, women are obligated in that. In fact, it's even stronger. In situations where the woman is not allowed in the lo ta'aseh, the negative prohibition, they are required in the positive commandment, even if it is time-related. What's an example? Kiddush. Kiddush, to make Kiddush on Shabbat, is a positive commandment from the Torah. Are women obligated in Kiddush? Yes. Even though it's time-related. Kiddush is on Shabbat, not on Friday, not on Tuesday. Because she's obligated in the lo ta'aseh and the prohibitions of Shabbat, therefore she's obligated in all the positive commandments of Shabbat. Pesach, she cannot eat hametz. That's the lo ta'aseh. Therefore, at the seder, the woman has to have matzah. Even though it's a positive commandment that is time-related, because there's a lo ta'aseh, there's a negative prohibition, which she's included in. Therefore, she's included in the positive ones as well that are time-related. Now we understand the deeper level. The lo ta'aseh is connected to the feminine. The mitzvah aseh is connected to the masculine. Where do we see that? In their names. Ish, and we have Isha.
What about Isha?
We're going to talk about it. Oh. Ish, Aleph, Yud, Shin. The Yud is between the Aleph and the Shin. When you have Aleph and Shin together, what do you have? Esh. What's Esh? Fire. Woman is Aleph, Shin, Hey, Isha. The Hey of Hashem's name is not interrupting between the Aleph and the Shin. What do we understand from that? It's a double-edged sword. On the one hand, they're very quick to become fire.
Sagittarius.
All women. But what's the difference in the emunah? I've said this before. If you want to start a fire, again, you don't do it in Florida so much because the weather here is all night, but when you're in New York or in the Northeast, you want to start a fire. How do you do it? You get newspapers, you get twigs, and then you put a log on top of them. And you set the fire to the newspaper and the twig. What happens? They quickly burn, they get very, very hot, and then what happens? Dies down, right? Yes. The log takes time to catch. Once the log catches and the log's on fire, I don't have to use newspapers and twigs when I can just take another log and put it right on top of that log. What's going to happen? It ignites. It's so we see from here that's the difference between men and women generally. Why do men need to come to synagogue every day and pray 3 times a day? Because they're like the twigs and the newspapers. They get hot, they get fire, and then they get cold very quick. Women, once they get hot, that's it. And we're not, it's in there. And if you see that, where do we see that? Very, very clearly. In the Torah. Where do we see it in the Torah? Burning bush? Okay, but there's no woman there.
She's probably around.
Lechem HaPanim would say fresh all week?
No.
No.
Where do we see it in the Torah?
This is the best day of my life. Did I say that?
You did, Baruch Hashem.
What about tomorrow? There's only tomorrow.
I'll only have tomorrow when tomorrow comes. Right now, I don't have
Where does the Torah begin to tell us about the experience of the Jewish people with Yud Kei Vav Kei? When does that start? Charlie? When does the experience of Yud Kei Vav Kei, which means not just like Avot, which is El Shaddai, when does the experience of Yud Kei Vav Kei begin? No.
The first plague.
Shmot, Sefer Shmot.
What does that mean?
Exodus. The beginning. Beginning is the experience. Exodus is coming to tell you the experience that the Jewish people had with Yud Kei Vav Kei, from the darkness to the light.
Yes, when you come out of it.
How does Sefer Shmot start? It says about Paro, a new king, everybody died, there's a new king, he made evil decrees. Yes? Okay, so far so good, right? Who is the first Jews that are talked about?
The first Jew.
I don't know why I want to say Midianites. I don't know what they're saying.
ויאמר מלך מצרים למיילדות העבריות אשר שם האחד שפרה ושם השני פועה. Wait a minute. We just talked about the death of all these people, right? Talked about all the brothers. They died, right? Who is the next Jew that is discussed? Not a man, a woman. Two women. Shifra and Puah, Yocheved and Miriam. And why does it bring up these women?
Because of them, Nigalu. We were Nigalu.
Okay, the Torah is telling us that, but why, in the merit of righteous women, we were redeemed?
They didn't listen to the decree of Pharaoh.
Oh my gosh, you mean to tell me that the display of Yirat Shamayim that we have from the beginning of Shmot is in the women? Absolutely. This is once again, what do we see? The way to rise up to Yud Kei Vav Kei is through the feminine. Meaning what? Yirat Shamayim is first. A person that doesn't have Yirat Shamayim has no access, which is awe of Shamayim. Yirat Shamayim is feminine, not masculine. I did say that before. What's masculine? Ahava. Correct. Ahava is masculine. Giving.
Who would have thought?
Okay. Who would have thought, right? Okay. So
It's not logical, Rambam. Love is not logical for the men. They're not nurturers. They're fighters.
You got the wrong idea about me.
We'll fix it.
Okay. Well, we're fixing it because what we're doing is we're learning Sod, and let's understand, because it's feminine and masculine. So what the Sod is doing is making distinctions between feminine attributes and masculine attributes, guys. Right? So continuing on. So Lashon Yishmeru, which is Yishmeru, Hishamer Lecha. What is that language in the Torah? That's guard, meaning what? That's a lo ta'aseh. So the lo ta'aseh, the prohibitions in the Torah, is language of Isha, language of feminine. What is the burning in Gehenna for a person who violates lo ta'aseh? Esh, fire. What is the burning in Gehenna for a person who doesn't do mitzvot aseh, positive commandments? Cold. What's the difference in the feeling between cold and hot?
Really nothing.
Nothing. It's called frostbite, burn.
When you touch dry ice,
It burns. So the burning feeling is what the feeling is. If it's burning through fire, that's a person who violated lo ta'aseh. If it's burning through ice, that's aseh. What is aseh? Meaning what? What is... Okay, let's look at this carefully.
Oh, yes. I never heard of it.
Okay. We'll look at Parashat Bechukotai. It talks about God getting upset with the Jewish people. What is he getting upset with?
Once more.
What in Parashat Bechukotai is Hashem upset with the Jewish people in the future? A little bit of Shemitah. She's not off on that completely. She's not off on that completely.
We're not all together.
What is the overarching theme of Parashat Bechukotai? The klalot, the curses in Parashat Bechukotai. Because you went with me by Kerry. What? Cold.
Cold what?
Dispassionate.
The Cold War.
Passion. How does a person show passion? I just said it.
By being
Oh, the men
fire.
and the women coming together.
Passion has to be shown.
By doing the three things.
1 second. How does a person show their passion for God?
Prayer.
Through doing mitzvot aseh,
I'll say what?
positive commandments.
But with
Action mitzvot. Lack of action is lack of passion. It's cold. When a person does a lo ta'aseh, when a person violates the Torah with a lo ta'aseh, that's fire.
Where's the water?
The water is the Torah that quenches the fire. Okay? So we see there's a concept of the lo ta'aseh is feminine, and the concept of the aseh is masculine. We did this a couple of weeks ago. We talked about this already. Zachor and Shamor. Shabbat has two qualities, Zachor and Shamor, right? The Aseret Dibrot in Sefer Yitro, in Yitro, it's Shamor to Shabbat. No, it's Zachor. And then in Va'et Chanan, it's Shamor to Shabbat. Shamor to Shabbat, right? What's the difference? Shamor is the lo ta'aseh. Zachor is the aseh. What did we learn? What did we learn in this book? Shamor is a function of the feminine. Zachor is a function of the masculine. What is the shorosh of the word Zachor? Zachar. Good. Zachar is masculine. Yes.
I don't know if this fits in the confines of all this, but I think of when someone is born, like their Hebrew birth date, and then sun signs. And
What
then,
sun signs?
Like, you know,
Like
Earth,
zodiac?
like Leo, Cancer.
Yeah, I would avoid that
In total,
in total.
Lama.
Because everything that you're going to read about that has been perverted by the idolaters.
Fair enough.
So I would stay away from that. In fact, in this week's parasha we just read last week, it says Tamim tiyeh Hashem Elokecha. We discussed that a little bit last week. What does Tamim mean? It means perfect. How can be perfect? We didn't answer that question yet. A person can't be perfect. There's no way to be perfect. Only God is perfect. We're not perfect. But what can you be perfect in? Faith. That you can be perfect in. Emunah.
Yeah.
So now, what is an example of people who are imperfect in faith? The Torah, I discussed this in Seudah Shlishit. The Torah gives a list of things, meaning he wants to see the future. So he goes to someone who works with bones of animals, or he goes to Yidoni, or he goes to all these witchcraft and stuff like that. This is all avodah zarah. Because a person is supposed to be tamim tiyeh im Hashem Elokecha. A person is supposed to understand that no matter what the astrology has to say, even if it's correct, I can change it. That's the concept of teshuvah.
Oh.
So therefore, a Jew should not be looking to astrology and palm reading, especially the Gentile stuff. Okay? Now, there is an aspect of palmistry in the Kabbalah, also about reading faces. Okay? Technically, reading faces is really a lost art. Anybody who says they're reading faces is full of balloonies. Okay? Palmistry, yes, but you have to be very careful because there's a lot of charlatans out there. So the best thing to do is Tamim tiyeh im Adonai Elohecha. I don't need to check the palm. I don't need to check the face. I don't need that. I'm just going to change my ways.
Mindset.
I'm going to change my behavior, and then everything will line up in the Shemaim as I'm supposed to get it.
True.
There you go. Okay? So no astrology. That's all AZ. What's AZ?
Arizona.
Avodah Zarah. Be careful.
And also the Yetzer Hara.
Why does the Yetzer Hara like that? Because it's a good way to go off the reservation.
OTD.
Oh, the derech, exactly. OTD. I love it. Okay, very good. So Yishmeru lashon isha, mikol asher amati la isha tishamer, v'siman zachor layom. Are you saying what I just said before? You like to see inside. Zachor is the masculine, shamor is the feminine. Shamor is the laila. Zachor is the day. The laila is empty of light. That's the feminine. She has to be filled. I don't go into details about that. Everybody knows what I'm talking about. The masculine is the light. That's the source of the giving. Now, we said she doesn't just take. She takes and makes better and then distributes. So therefore, that's the role of the nukva.
And BASF, they don't make the vessel, they make it better.
No, they are the vessel. They take what they receive and distribute it out, make it better. So they have the quality of receiving and giving. Okay?
Cool.
וכשעושים כך מהכתיב, והביאו אותי מהר קודשי ושימחתי בבית תפילתי, when they are behaving like this, meaning that the Jewish people are following the Torah, what is it written? והביאו אותי מהר קודשי, I will bring them to my holy mountain. What's that mountain? It's called Moriah. Moriah. ושימחתים בבית תפילתי, and I will make them sameach in my house of prayer. What is the concept of sameach from a sod point of view? You just repeated it in English. What is the secret of simcha?
Joy?
No, the feeling.
What is the sod of simcha? Zivug, connection.
Oh.
When a person feels connected to God, the simcha is unimaginable.
Shabbos, because it says you get a double mitzvah. That's it.
Now, Shabbos doesn't have the concept of simcha because simcha is for you and Shabbos is all for God.
Okay.
Right? So therefore, there's oneg on Shabbat, which is pleasure, okay? But there's no mitzvah of simcha on Shabbat. But the simcha of zivug, of a person who's connected to his wife, to God, is sameach. We have an example in the Torah. The sod of simcha is zivug. Now, what does it say here? V'haviotim el har kodshi, I'm going to bring the Jewish people to my holy mountain, and I will make them happy in the house of my prayer. Why are they going to be happy in the house of the prayer? Because they will have a direct connection to me. And that connection brings simcha. Why is it Shabbat, there's no requirement to be in the temple, unless you're Kohen on duty that week. But shalosh regalim, 3 holidays, you have a commandment. Men, time related, women can come too, but men, obligation to come to the temple. Why? How can you be sameach not in the temple? No temple, simcha is deficient. Why does it say that Az yimale s'chok pinu? That's what it says. Shira ma'alot esa me'an yevo is reached. Talking about the coming of the Mashiach, yes? Az yimale s'chok pinu. Then will our mouths be filled with s'chok and simcha. When? When the temple's built. So therefore, the way to have simcha is through connection to God, connection to others. Simcha. Zivug. Zivug. Vav. Zivug is connection, intimate connection between man and woman.
Zivug.
Zivug. Good? Zivug. Want a pen? Okay, so we see some. Now, let me ask you a question. We have the concept of a woman that gives birth to a boy, and she's Tame'ah for 7 days. Yes? Yeah. Right. The blood that she has is for 7 days. From the 8th day and on, even if she's still bleeding from the Torah, this is not the halakha today, but even if she's still bleeding from the 8th day, husband and wife, she's allowed to be with each other. She goes to mikveh, even if she's bleeding, and basically they could be with each other on the night of the 8th. That's what the Torah says, right? If a girl is born, then it's 14 days that she's Tame'ah, the woman. And then after the 14th day, she goes to mikveh, even if she's still bleeding. That's called dam tohar. So here's the question. Why is the boy 8 days, 7 days, and the girl 14?
More power, more creation.
Connected to what we just said. The Torah tells us, Isha ki tazriya v'yaleda zacha v'tamea shivat yamim pimei nidat devota titma. It says a woman who gives seed and she gives birth to a boy, she will be tame'ah for 7 days, right? And from the 8th day and on, she will be tahor, pure, right? What does it squeeze in right there? There's something squeezed in. It doesn't belong there at all. I'll read it to you. וידבר אדוני משה לאמור דבר בני ישראל לאמור אישה כי תזריע וילדה זכה וטמא 7 ימים כי נידת דבותה תטמא. Speak to the children of Israel and tell them, a woman who gives seed and she gives birth to a boy, she will be impure for 7 days, like the days of her separation, which is the nidah, right? Next pasuk. Ubayom hashemini yimol besar orlato. And on the 8th day, you circumcise that boy. Next. Ushloshim yom ushloshet yamim. And 33 days she sits in the blood of purity. She cannot touch any kodesh and she cannot come to the temple until she finishes her days of purity, which means she can be with her husband. What is Brit Milah there for? We're talking about the woman. Okay, she gave birth to a son. Baruch Hashem. Why? This is the secret here. Why is it? If it's a sod, you can't guess it. Why is it? If it's a sod, you either heard it before or you can't guess it. That's the problem.
I know, but I might have forgotten.
Okay, maybe you heard it before. Why is the Torah mentioning over here that on the 8th day you give birth? It has nothing to do with what's going on there except that you give birth to a boy. The reason why the husband and wife can be together on the 8th night is because of the Brit Milah, which is the next day. Why? Because the Brit Milah is a source of simcha, joy. And the Gemara says, how can it be that everybody who's coming to this simcha has joy, but the husband and wife don't? What do you mean the husband and wife don't have joy? They had a boy. They're giving a circumcision. What's the joy? The zivug. So from here we understand the secret, the relations, the connection, the intimate connection. So here we understand the secret of simcha is intimate connection. Why are there so many people that are unhappy? Because they don't have true connection to God. Not strong enough. Through another person or directly. Person doesn't have to be married to be sameach. It's hard not to be unmarried, but there's a simcha that a person has when they feel like they are walking with God. And the reason why people don't, why is this country, do people shoot things up? Why is all this stuff going on? Because we have divorced ourselves from God, chas v'shalom. Liberals are not happy people. I'm sorry, I'm going to say it outright. Liberals are not happy people. They're miserable people. Why? Again, I'm not certain liberals who believe in God. If they believe in God, then they can be very happy people. It's not the liberal opinion that's the problem. It's the disconnect from God. People who are disconnected from God have no simcha.
But they have a rainbow.
That's not simcha. That's klala. Very good. They picked that choice.
Yeah.
The rainbow is a klala. Great that you picked. It's a curse. It's a curse.
For a woman who elevated things. But getting back to why I feel you're saying what you're saying about liberals, let's just say, I come from Philadelphia, a place that was, most Jews were Democrats, I'm just saying. And we do have a lot of corruption there. I know that, like, for sure. And then all of a sudden, my Jews are all Republican, like out of nowhere. Not all, but many, most, a lot. And I was like, wow, that's a huge shift. Like, what's Hashem trying to say? There's confusion here. But the Republicans, correct me if I'm wrong, because I know you will, like, they're preaching religion. Some, like, saying, we're going back to this. Well, so the liberals are making up new rules that were not in the book. That's
the liberals are divorcing themselves from God.
Right, but that's the book or not the book?
And the problem is freedom.
To do anything. At all whatsoever, with no penalties.
Freedom has to have borders, has to have boundaries.
That's speaking out of both sides of the mouth.
This is the way the world was created. If you think otherwise, then you don't understand how God created the world.
True.
The world has freedom, and there are boundaries to freedom. There are limitations to freedom. Too many limitations is no good. Too much freedom is no good. There's a balance. And unfortunately, the liberals have lost the balance because what they recognize is, what do they really want to be free from? They want to be free from God.
Control.
They don't want to be controlled. Who's going to control me? Now, no one in this country should be imposing anyone's religion on anybody else. That's not how it works. Separation of church and state. That's important. Okay? But the problem with the Democrat Party is it used to be a party of people with faith. Now it's a party of people that are anarchists and have no belief in God. And because of that, they're getting themselves into a lot of trouble. A lot of trouble. And it's not good for us because it's very important to have two parties that have different opinions, and we can always straddle the middle because we don't want to go too far to the right. We don't go too far to the left. It's always better to be in the middle. Who says that? The Rambam. We want to be in the middle. And if we don't have a Democrat party, or the Democrat party is going off to the reservation to the left, that forces the right to move further to this way. And that's not good for anybody. Because then we're not talking to each other anymore. Then we're not a United States of America. Then we're destroying ourselves. And that's what's going on. And the reason they've lost their way, as we say in Harry Potter, you've lost your way, is because they've abandoned God. That's the problem. Okay.
Very supportive of LGBT.
You can say like this. You could say, listen, I know what the Bible says. Let's say, believe it or not, okay. I know what the Bible says. I don't want to impose my will on anybody else. Marriage is really, if you want to redefine marriage, that's not a good idea. We should just eliminate the concept of marriage. The government should have nothing to, that's what, what's his name say? Should have nothing to do with marriage. There should, it's a bet din, it's a religious marriage. You want to get married, you get a religious marriage, and then you get the tax benefits, and that does make a difference. So at the end of the day, and if you go to whatever, you go to the justice, the marriage is the problem. Because we started out as a Judeo-Christian country, and we're getting away from that. That's the problem sometimes with the liberals, that they're going away from the roots. When you go away from the roots, you lose your focus. That's what's going on in Europe, and Europe is finished. Europe is finished because they went away from their roots. Now, their roots are rotten because the Christianity of Europe wasn't very nice to the Jewish people. Okay?
Never.
No. Okay, so anyway, getting off topic, but bottom line is this. There has to be borders of freedom. Unlimited freedom is no good. The Torah is not about freedom. There's nothing in the Torah that's about freedom. It's about individual obligation, individual responsibility. That's what the Torah teaches. That's God's law. And if I'm not infringing on your rights because I'm not allowed to do that, therefore you don't need to have rights because I'm just not going to violate your rights. I'm going to do what I'm supposed to do. We need rights when people don't follow the law. Anyway, let's get off the top. So we see what is the simha once again. What is the underlying sort of simha? Connection, zivug, not just light connection, intimate connection. You there?
Yes.
Intimate connection.
So if someone
That's
doesn't have their,
zivug.
That's zivug.
if somebody doesn't have their other half, like what let's say,
So they connect to God until they find their other half.
correct, to refine
A Jew is never alone.
their characters.
Even when a Jew is alone, they are not lonely. Right? You can be
take that to the bank.
you can be alone, but that does, and sometimes, you know what? We prefer sometimes to be alone.
Bingo.
Right? A married couple, part of being successful in marriage is to recognize there is time we want to be alone. Not a lot, because then that doesn't work. Okay? You have space, but you're not lonely, because when you're alone, there's still God. When a person has no relationship with God, they're alone and they are lonely. And lonely is a horrible way for a human being to be, because we are created as social beings. We need to have interaction. Some need it more than others, but we need to have social interaction. And ultimately, even if a person is alone on a deserted island, they're not alone. They're not lonely because God is there. And that recognition gives simcha. Connection gives simcha. That's why it says, Lo hayu yamim smechim leYisrael. There were no greater days of happiness for the Jewish people than Tu B'Av and Motza'e Yom Kippurim. Let's talk about that.
What's the second one? The day before Yom Kippur?
The day after, the night after Yom Kippur.
My best friend left her body.
Okay, let's talk. Why Tu B'Av? What is it about Tu B'Av that's
My Bobby left him.
simcha? What is simcha? What's the simcha of Tu B'Av?
Love.
The Pilega should be giva. There was a separation because the Jewish people swore not to marry the Shevet Binyamin, and Binyamin is a Shevet was going to disappear because what they didn't do something proper with the Pilega should be giva. Not going to go into details about that. And what happened was, in a very short period of time, Binyamin was falling off the gum because no one's going to marry them. They made a swear they're not going to get the tribe. There was a man who went to a place with a Pilegesh, with a concubine. And he went to visit this place, and then it was in Binyamin, and then he left the place. The person didn't guide him when he left the house, didn't do livui, which is a mitzvah from the Torah to be milaveh a person. And so the guy went out, and a couple of brigands, bad people, raped his Pilegesh, raped her to the point where she died. So the man basically went to Shevet Binyamin and said, what are we doing about this? And they weren't doing anything about it. It was their own people. So what did he do? He took the Pilegesh, he cut her up into 11 pieces, and sent one piece to each one of the Shvatim.
The tribes.
All the tribes.
12 tribes.
To each of the
Suddenly they get a piece of a woman in the mail. Oh, wait, what's going on? And he basically said, by the way, this is what's going on in Shevet Binyamin. So all the 11 tribes came basically to find out what happened. And Binyamin did not look for the brigands. So there was a civil war, the bad guys. There's a civil war, and the 11 tribes almost decimated and destroyed all of the men of Shevet Binyamin. It's one of the worst catastrophes we have in the Tanakh. And then when they stopped the war, there are a couple of hundred Binyamin, I think with 400 left, they made a swear that they're not going to give their daughters over in marriage to anyone in Binyamin. What's going to happen? They're not going to have anything. So what's going to happen? That's it. So what happened? Over the course of time, they were going to disappear. So Tu B'Av was the day that they came up with a way around the swear, because you can't retract the swear.
What swear?
They made a swear that they're not going to give their daughters to, not a promise, a swear.
He swore that
they swore they're not going to give their daughters to a Benjamite.
One of those people who raped and then cut.
No, any one of Benjamin. All the tribe.
How do we know who they are?
It doesn't make a difference. Doesn't make a difference. Anyway, so they realized this wasn't a good idea. Because now what happens? Benjamin's going to fall up. They're not going to have any. They're going to have Job's
No
children.
descendants.
So what did they do? They said, okay, we made a swear that we're not going to give our daughters, but nothing is going to prevent the Benjamites from coming in taking our daughters. So what happens? The girls would go. No, nothing bad. The girls would go out into the field, the ones who weren't married, and they would dress up in nice clothing and all that kind of stuff. And they would say, if they're beautiful, they would say, look at the looks. If they weren't beautiful, they'd say, look at the family, right? And these Benjamites would come and basically not take them, but it wasn't the father giving the daughter. The guy was taking her as sort of, he's not really giving her. And that's how they got around the swear, and that resurrected the Shevet of Binyamin. What is that? That caused there to be shalom, peace amongst the Jewish people, right? Which means now we are still connected to each other. That's the simcha of Tu B'Av, one of them. What's Motzei Yom Kippur? Why Motzei Yom Kippur?
No, before.
Why doesn't it say Yom Kippur?
Where?
It says there were not greater happy days for the Jewish people than Tu B'Av, we just explained Tu B'Av. Motzei Yom Kippurim. Why doesn't it say Yom Kippur? The sins are forgiven on Kippur. What's missing on Kippur? Relations.
They're able to have relations.
How can there be simcha if there's no relations?
But they couldn't go 26 hours?
You're not catching it.
No, he's saying because it's directly defined.
Zivug, connection, connecting to God. That's what Kippur is all about, connecting to God, yes? But that's not sufficient for simcha. There also has to be a connection to humans.
Why not say Rosh Hashanah?
Because Rosh Hashanah is not about, not the same level of Teshuvah as Kippur.
Motzei Tisha B'Av?
And Rosh Hashanah, by the way, doesn't have a prohibition for zivug with Leil Tevilah.
Motzei Tisha B'Av.
Tisha B'Av is not about simcha.
Motzei
Tisha B'Av is
they
also
got
not.
connection again.
Tisha B'Av is also not about Teshuvah. Even though there's Teshuvah about, Tisha B'Av is morning. It's morning.
You can't do anything with your right.
It's morning. It's different. Kippur is a Yom Tov. It's a Yom Tov, but there's no simcha attached to that Yom Tov.
For human.
Gemara asks a question: why don't we say Hallel on Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur? Why don't we say Hallel on Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur? It's a Yom Tov, no? It's a holiday. Why don't we say Hallel?
It's Rosh Chodesh Tishrei. So you would want to say it.
And Kippur, you don't say Hallel. Why don't you say Kippur and Hallel? It's a Yom Tov. It's not because Rosh Hashanah is Rosh Chodesh that you say Hallel. No. Why don't we say Hallel with a bracha? Hallel on Rosh Chodesh is a custom. It's not a din. Okay? On Yom Tov, it's a din to say Hallel. You say it with a bracha. Like Sukkot, like Pesach, the first day and the last day, right? Why is there no Hallel on Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur? What is Hallel? Hallel is an expression of simcha. Because in Rosh Hashanah, how can you be sameach when the books of the living and the books of the dead are open? The same thing with Kippur. And it's a din. How can a person be sameach? Sameach, you can't be. But when can you be sameach? After Kippur. After Kippur, you've received your forgiveness. You've had yourself something to eat. Maybe you drank a little bit of wine, some simcha, and you have relations. Now there's simcha. Which means we are not, unlike Christianity, which is very much against sex and all that kind of stuff, we have a very healthy attitude towards that. We connect where it's appropriate, not allowed to do where it's not appropriate, in the wrong time, in the wrong person, all that kind of stuff. Big sins, alone, no good, okay? But relations between man and woman is holy. What's a wedding called? Kiddushin. We call her Mekudeshet. What does Mekudeshet mean? She's holy? She's not holy. Maybe she is, maybe she's not.
Separated from everybody else.
Separated from every other man on the planet. That is Kiddushin. Hare at Mekudeshet li. You are not sanctified. That's a lousy interpretation. You are only for me, which means you cannot have relations with any other man on the planet. That is Kiddushin. And how does she agree to that?
The shtar. By accepting the shtar.
By accepting the ring. Or if you're Syrian, She holds the hand out, and he puts coins.
Oh, matzvot. Like
Oh, you-
like a
I-
pidyon.
And
I
what
was very
is
impressed the first time I saw that.
and what is the message? Whether it's a ring or whether it's coins, what's the message?
You're making a
We
kinyan.
support you.
Aha! It's not just about sex. It's about support and giving. Okay? That's kiddushin in front of everybody. That's Jewish marriage.
Okay, Rosh Hashanah, you're able to eat and drink. You're able to be sameach, and there's no tachanun.
Okay, but you have to be some. Is there an Indian of simcha on Rosh Hashanah?
Yes.
Really? Is it? If you look at the Rambam, it says the mitzvah to be sameach.
On Rosh Hashanah?
Shalosh pe'amim b'shana. De'ayit ach sameach. 3 times a year.
Okay.
Not Rosh Hashanah.
You said a Jew has to be happy every day.
Okay.
There's
A
no
Jew
special
is
simcha
not
for
allowed
Jews.
to be sad at all. A person has never. A person. Okay.
Yeah, but your mom eats.
Let's
Your
do
mom
this.
eats
Once
your
again, let's
bread.
come back to the sod. When we understand the sod, you'll understand my statement. What is simcha?
Connection
Connection to?
to God.
When is a Jew allowed to be disconnected from God?
Never.
Never. Therefore, there can't be a situation where there's no simcha. There could be less simcha not because of low connection to God, but because it's Tisha B'Av. I'm not supposed to be sameach today. It's Rosh Hashanah. I have to temper my simcha on Rosh Hashanah. I can't have. There's no extra simcha because of Rosh Hashanah.
By saying Hallel. And those,
That's why I don't say Hallel.
Okay, fine.
And we eat meat and we drink wine with trepidation.
Right. You're right.
Trepidation. Gilu bir ada. Be happy, but with trepidation. It's Yom Hadin.
And Purim, all that goes out the
Which
window.
means the Navi, at the end of the tefillah in the Syrian synagogue, they quote a pasuk, go home and drink wine and eat sweet meat and all that kind of stuff, because God has forgiven your sin. Which means the reason I can be happy today is why? Because I'm in the process of making teshuvah, reconnecting. That allows me to have, but it's a simcha that is subdued because it's a day of judgment. And Kippur is the same. Look at the difference between Ashkenazim and Sfaradim. Selichot. This probably illustrates the different nusach amazing.
That's what I do.
Sephardic Selichot.
That's what I do with the Sephardi.
On Kippur. What do we say? Hatanu lefanecha rachem aleinu. That is a very upbeat tune. And what are we saying? We sin before you. Turn around. What are you happy about that? So if you look at all the selichot, even the nosach of the tefillah for Rosh Hashanah Kippur, it's subdued, but there are aspects of a lot of happiness there. The happiness on Rosh Hashanah and Kippur is subdued.
Oh, yeah, but it's still there.
But it's there. But it's Hatanu lefanecha rachem. That is a very upbeat and happy tune. Now, it's beautiful. Beautiful. The nosach is beautiful, but it's not upbeat. Ashkenaz on Rosh Hashanah Kippur.
Yeah, they are kind of sad.
It's sad.
Cold weather.
It's the focus on the awesomeness of the day. It's beautiful tunes. I mean, if you like, real Ashkenaz chazanut, not like we have in most synagogues today. We have someone fetching, but if they would hire a chazan like they did 50 years ago, oh my gosh, incredible! It's beautiful. But it's a subdued. Sephardim, it's not subdued. It's subdued, but it's really out there. That's the difference. There's a confidence in forgiveness. We're focusing on the forgiveness. We still have a subdued simcha. We don't say Hallel, okay? But we're confident we're going to be forgiven. That's the key, okay? And really the underlying theme is we're reconnecting to God. That is simcha. Okay? And which is the holiday that has simcha par excellence? All the holidays have simcha. Which is the one that is? Simchas Torah is, okay. You're not wrong, but it's not just Simchas Torah.
The one before it.
Okay? Pesach is
Geulah.
Cherutenu. Shavuot is Matan Toratenu. Cherutenu is our freedom. Shavuot is Matan Toratenu, the giving of the Torah. What is Sukkot?
Chagasif. But it's months.
What do we say in the Tefillah?
Samachenu. Specifically Samachenu.
We say Yom Simchatenu. So we see Sukkot has a level of simcha, it's like on steroids. Whereas you have to be sameach on Pesach, you have to be sameach on Shavuot. Sukkot has a level of simcha that's on steroids. It's like simcha of simcha. Why? Why? What's the difference between Sukkot and Pesach and Shavuot? Why is it that Sukkot has this extra level of simcha on top?
And you're eating in a sukkah together, commanded.
You have just reconnected to God. First of all, you reconnected to your people that you made mistakes with because you made teshuvah and you asked people for forgiveness. So there's reconnection amongst the Jewish people, right? You have to ask for forgiveness for people that you made mistakes with, right? That's part of the teshuvah process. You can't go to God and ask for forgiveness. You still have stolen money in your hands. First, you have to fix that, okay? So first, we're fixing relationships amongst each other. And the other thing we do is fix our relationship with God. Now we come out of Kippur and we go to Sukkot, which has many, many mitzvot. We get to sit in the shadow of the Shekhinah. Why? Because we've done teshuvah. Pesach and Shavuot, maybe you did teshuvah, maybe you didn't. But Sukkot, you better have done teshuvah. Right? Because you just had Yom Kippur, Rosh Hashanah, you had Azeh, you made Teshuvah, you had Elul, and all this time to make Teshuvah. So therefore, why does it have such a level of simcha? Because at Sukkot is the best relationship with God. Now we understand why Zechariah says in chapter 14, when the Mashiach comes, what are the Goyim going to have to do? They're going to have to celebrate a certain holiday. Which holiday?
I'd like to say Hanukkah because I like gifts.
The 70 bulls are the 70 nations.
Sukkot. They're going to have to celebrate the holiday of Sukkot. Why? Because for the first time in their life experience and Gentile experience, they will have a true relationship with God. Right now, they don't. Right now, they have a fake relationship. When the Mashiach comes and God is revealed to everyone and everybody recognizes, when everybody recognizes there's one God and his name is Yud-Kei Vav-Kei, not Allah, not Jesus, his name is Yud-Kei Vav-Kei, and they all bow down to one God, they're going to come to celebrate the holiday of Sukkot. Why? Because for the first time in their history, they're going to be truly Sameach. Don't hear what I just said. For the first time in their history, they're going to be Sameach. Why? Because they have a true connection to God, as opposed to a false one.
You're just going to feel the energy.
That's right. And what happens to the Gentiles that don't come to celebrate the holiday of Sukkot? They're not going to have rain, which means they're going to die. They're going to die of starvation. Why?
Spiritual starvation.
No, physical starvation, it says. No. Why is that? Because the only way the land is going to give them fruit is if they have a connection with Yud-Kei Vav-Kei.
So that means the Italians need to follow the Jews, not the Jews need to follow the Italians.
Well, that's clear in the Tanakh. Anybody who reads all the verses of the Bible, not just everybody, they're all going to come to it says in Zechariah, chapter 8, verse number 23. Look it up yourself when you go home. Chapter 8, verse number 23. And on that, it's a messianic prophecy without beyond the shadow of a doubt. And on that day, 10 members of each of the nations of the Gentiles shall grab onto the cloak, the corner of the garment of a Jew, and say, we will follow you because we know that God is with you. What name is used in that pasuk for God? Yud-Kei Vav-Kei. If the Christians are right, chas v'shalom, why are they coming to us at the end of days? They're not coming to us to convince us we were wrong. They're coming to us to learn how they were wrong. That's the Tanakh.
Yeah, they must have skipped that.
They skipped that. That verse, I promise you, that verse appears nowhere in the New Testament. Doesn't appear. By the way, the verses that talk about the limb, the lo yisa goy el goy cheref from Isaiah chapter 2 and Isaiah chapter 11, those verses appear nowhere in the Christian Bible. If the Christian Bible is discussing the arrival, the advent of the Messiah, why are the obvious prophecies of Yeshaya, which talk about the peace in the world, why are they not mentioned? Spend a lot of time on the virgin giving birth. We know that's not a virgin anyway. But there's no time spent in Isaiah 2. Why not? Because the authors of the Christian Bible knew that the messianic prophecies were not fulfilled. No?
I like it.
Okay. As a Jew, it's ideal, if you don't know what to answer, it's better not to talk to them. But you really want to know why we're right. It's not enough for us to know that we're right. We have to know why. And how do I know that? Give me chumash. How do I know that? How do I know what I'm saying? I'm going to prove it to you from the Torah. What does it say in the Torah? It says in Parashat Re'eh. Chapter 13. I'll read the Pesukim. Oh, it's beautiful stuff. Ki yakum b'kirbecha navi o cholem halom v'natan elecha o mofet. If amongst you arises a prophet or a dreamer of dreams, and he will give amongst you a sign or a wonder. What does that mean? He's going to tell you he's going to do some type of a miracle. He's going to make some kind of a sign. Walking on water, you name whatever the sign, you could pick it, whatever it is. Making fish appear, whatever the story is. Uba ha'ot ve'amofet asher diber elecha lemor nelecha achar Elohim acharim asher lo yida'tem v'na'ovdem. And what happens? He tells you a miracle is going to happen. And guess what? The miracle happens. Not of course. Why is God allowed? The Torah is going to answer this question, even though it's not asked yet. It's going to be asked soon. Why? Let's flip the Kabbalah now. Why is God allowing this prophet's miracle to come true? 1 second. And what's the problem with the prophet? It's not that he did a miracle. Who cares? As far as the Jewish people are concerned, you did a miracle, big deal. What is the message? For us, you can split the Red Sea, you could split the Atlantic Ocean, you could you could fly up in the air, you could walk on water. Go kol hakavod. What are you saying? If you say, by the way, see this miracle I just did? You have to be more Shomer Shabbat. That's a good prophet. If he says you can't have relations with a woman, you're not supposed to have relations, that's a good prophet. If he says, what the pasuk says, let us go after other gods that you do not intimately know and serve them. That's what he says. He says, here's the miracle, and I'm God. I'm a triune God. I'm part of the three-set Godhead. Whatever he says, or he says, no more Shabbat, Paul. No more Brit Milah. We don't need this anymore. We want to be like the Goyim. We want to have one religion. It's like the opposite of John Lennon. John Lennon wanted to get rid of our religion. He thought that's going to make everybody in peace. Christianity said we make everybody the same. That's going to make in peace. No. No. So the message, what's the message? That's the key factor. Why did the Jews reject Jesus? If he walked the earth and if he had a message, with miracles or no miracles, I don't care. They rejected him. Why? Because he didn't say what it's supposed to say, which means he said we're going to go after other gods. And let me ask you a question. How are we supposed to know the God? How are we supposed to know? The Torah tells you. Go ask your father. Go ask your grandfather. Go ask your great-grandfather. And how does he know? How does your father know? Because his father told him. And how does his father know? Because his father told him. And how does his father know? Because his father told him. And when you keep going back, where do you end up? On Mount Sinai, where 3 million people experienced God. That's what your father tells you. And when someone comes along and says something different than what we heard on Mount Sinai, this is a false prophet. Now the Torah says, Lo tishma el divrei hanavi hahu, el cholem hachalom hahu. You shall not listen to the message of that prophet or that dreamer of dreams. Here's the question the Torah is going to answer. Why does God allow this person to do a miracle? Why doesn't he just say, no miracle for you? Get the kasha. God can let the miracle happen, or God could not let the miracle happen. Why does God allow the miracle to happen?
Tired of all the apologies.
That's not what the Torah says. What does the Torah say? Ki menaseh Adonai Elohim etchem ladat hayishchem ohavim et Adonai Elohim b'chol levavchem b'chol nafshechem. He is testing you. What's he testing you? Do you love God? Yud Kei Vav Kei, not Jesus, not Allah. Do you love Yud Kei Vav Kei with all of your heart and with all of your soul? Meaning what? If I know why Christianity is wrong, if I know why Islam is wrong, that's my way of showing love of God. It's not just that I know that Judaism is right. That's also showing I love God. But I can also show love of God. How? By knowing why they are wrong. How does a woman show her love for her husband? There are 2 ways. Way number 1, she's intimate with one man. She's intimate with that man. What's the other way? She's not intimate with anybody else. If she's intimate with other men, what does that mean? She loves other people. How do you show you love God? By being intimate only with Yud Kei Vav Kei and rejecting any intimacy with anyone else. We are the wife, he's the husband. Shira Shirim. What is that? We are the Kala, he's Chatan. How do we show that we are Am Kadosh, a holy nation? We are Mikudeshet. How are we Mikudeshet? We have one God. We have one land. That's it. America, beautiful country. We're here temporarily. This is not our land. That's it. Meaning we show our love of God through our allegiance and our devotion to him and him alone. Yes. Yes.
This is like huge.
Go ahead.
I have the answer in a way, but I want to bring it.
Oh, by the way, what happens to the prophet? What does the Torah say happens to the prophet? He gets killed.
Oh, I thought he
Oh,
got killed
surprise,
like that.
surprise. He doesn't get resurrected. It doesn't say anything about that. He gets killed. And it doesn't say anything about coming alive again.
It doesn't say Tliyah.
Oh, really? How does a mesit umediach,
What does that mean?
a person, first I say the Hebrew, I'll explain the English. How does a person who is convincing people to go away from God get punished? The same way an idolater gets punished. Stoning,
Oh, so then Tliyah.
not the good way, not the Jamaican way,
Or
okay?
people be like, yeah,
Stoning
yeah,
and then
right.
hanging, which means they're not hung alive. We're not Romans. We hang them up dead. The two people that get stoned and hung are Mesita Medeach and the person who caused other people to worship Avodah Zarah. An idolater. Idolatry. They get hung. Okay? So, and why? Because Mesita Medeach, the person who's Mesit, what is he doing? He's causing them to go after other gods. If he's an idol worshiper, he gets stoned. If he's not an idol worshiper, he still gets stoned. And so what do we see from here? If Jesus was killed and then punished by hanging, forget crucifixion, that wasn't our thing, then that means he was convincing people to go after false gods. That verse applies to him. Either that or he never existed. It's all stories.
I just asked the question this week to my cousin we got only so far. And then there was this driving truck that's like allforpeace.com or something. So I asked my cousin, who's been in the Jewish world working for a long time, even though I've been like in Chabad world a really long time now, but not like enough, right? But I grew up in a shul that my
Okay.
But I was gonna say, like, if there's this is not the way I was gonna say it before because I lost it, but like someone who is here to help bring the Jews back, whose lineage, a person, not a prophet, but each piece of us has to be together in order.
Yes.
Okay. So if a messenger who's a human in a human body meets that person and feels a strong connection, that they must keep telling that person. But this is like a female person. Men don't always hear from females. I heard that they can't learn Torah from females. And but they're sending the message, right? Because they care about that person's life, that they don't get hung.
So I'm not clear what the connection is.
Me neither, because when I had the original.
You want peace in the world? You want peace? That's a beautiful concept. You want peace in the world?
The person doesn't have its other half.
Peace in the world is very simple. Everybody bows down to Yud Kei Vav Kei. That'll be peace in the world. The sooner that happens, it starts with the Jewish people, then it goes to them. Yes.
Okay. So, a woman, if she's married to a man sharing respect, she, like, I am for my beloved is for mine, something like that.
Yeah, go ahead.
She promises to only be with him. Like,
right.
My temple is for you, my body is for you.
Right. Well, it's her body, but she shares it. But okay, go ahead. With one man. With one man.
But if that man has been having relations with many, he can be redeemed. Correct or not? A Jewish man can.
Okay, that sounds a little Christian. Redeemed. Well, what does that mean? Redeemed. Okay. Okay. A Jewish man from the Torah is allowed to have relations. What happened to King Solomon at the end?
Tell me.
Didn't go so well for him.
Tell me. Oh.
The Bible says that he worshipped Avodah Zarah. He worshipped idolatry. Now, he didn't really.
And the women became his god.
No. He allowed. No, I don't know. That's not it. No, that's not what happened.
I need to know.
Okay, so what happened was King Solomon was given the greatest wisdom of any man that ever lived, right? Moses was the greatest prophet, but that doesn't mean he was the most wise. Okay, he had all the chokhmah of the Torah, and that's really all the wisdom one needs. But Shlomo HaMelech was given chokhmah, mikol b'nei kedem, which means a tremendous amount of wisdom. Okay, and the Torah tells us in last week's parasha that the king is not allowed to have a lot of wives and not allowed to have a lot of horses. So King Solomon basically wanted to do a test and just generally don't test God. Not a good idea. He tests us all the time. We should never test God, with one exception, charity. Other than that, you don't test God. If you test God, you end up not doing so well. His father tested God and also didn't do so well with something. Okay? So Solomon was going to test. He was going to test what the Torah says. Since he's the smartest man that ever lived, he figured he should be the one that's able to marry many women. He should be the one that's able to have lots of horses because he has the most wisdom. And it didn't work out so well for him. And the message is, Al tiyeh chacham harbe. That's what it says in Pirkei Avot. Don't be too smart. Okay? As smart as you are, you're not smarter than the Torah. If the Torah says it's not allowed, it's not allowed. Don't try to be smarter than the Torah. You're never going to win. Okay? Torah says it's not allowed, and the purpose he did that was to demonstrate that if I can't do it, no one can. Okay, that's what that's how. Now, King Solomon never worshipped avodah zarah, idolatry, but he allowed his wives to worship avodah zarah. He didn't. No, I don't know if they worshipped him, but he didn't. He was not stringent with them. First of all, it's hard to be stringent with women because anyway. But it didn't work out so well for him. In fact, it says on the day that he took, and why did he marry all these women? What was his purpose? He wanted to bring peace to the world. And the best way to bring peace to the world is you marry the daughter of your enemy. And now if he's attacking you, he's attacking his daughter. Who is the enemy of the Jewish people? Egypt. So what did he do? King Solomon married the daughter of Paro. Talmud says, on the day that he took the daughter of Paro as a wife, and he converted her, so that didn't convert her. On the day that he took the daughter of Paro as a wife, the temple was already going to be destroyed. The temple that he was in the process of building was going to be destroyed. Yes. King David. Okay, the Talmud discusses this. It says in the prayer, blessed are you, the Lord, Lord of our fathers, the Lord of Abraham, the Lord of Isaac, and the Lord of Jacob. Right? The father of Abraham, the father of Isaac, and the father of Jacob. So David HaMelech asked the question, what about the father of David? Why is David not there? David. Now, why is that a reasonable question? Charlie, why is that a reasonable question? Abraham represents chesed. Yaakov represents judgment.
No.
Yitzchak represents judgment. Yaakov represents tiferet, beauty. David represents malchut, kingship. So it's a reasonable question. In fact, we have a bracha. We have bracha Magen Avraham. That's in the tefillah. On the haftarah, we have a bracha Magen David. So it's not an unreasonable question for David HaMelech to have asked, why is the malchut not included with those three? Good? Question, the problem wasn't the question. Because the fact that David HaMelech asked, that's not the problem. The problem, guys, what God said and what David answered. So God said, I'm going to tell you exactly why it doesn't say Elokei David. You know why? Because Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, I tested. You, I didn't test.
Wow.
Now, when God says that, what do? You say, Baruch Hashem, thank you for not testing me. Have a nice day. Let me go get myself a glass of water. David HaMelech's mistake was, he said, test me! So what does God say? Fine, I'll test you. And I'm going to do different than I did your forefathers. I'm going to tell you in what I'm going to test you in. I'm going to test you in illicit relations. David HaMelech said, okay. It's like, give me what you test, what the question is. So what does he do right away? David HaMelech goes and spends time with Michal, his wife. He figures if he had any, whatever, he'd get it out there. And now he's free.
It's good to go.
It's good to go. He had relations. He doesn't need to have relations again. He's good to go. Goes up on the roof of his house to take a nice view. And he looks over to another roof. What does he see? He sees Bathsheba. And right away, he's filled with desire. And he sends someone over to invite her to come over.
You skipped the part.
What I skip?
No.
No, that's the end part.
Oh, sorry.
So the Talmud says, first of all, David asking to test God, asking to be tested.
remotely.
Just not a good idea. Because the reason God didn't test him is because he knew he was going to fail. And remember, a person can only pass the test if God helps him. If a person is asking to be tested, God doesn't help them. Where God helps a person, right? When God tested Abraham, okay, if it was just Abraham alone, he would have failed, but God helped him. So God helps him when he tests you, when he tests a person, he helps you as long as you exert maximum effort to avoid failing the test. He's going to give you help. He's going to help you so that you can pass the test. David HaMelech, what happened was Hashem didn't help him. So therefore, he was onto his own devices and he failed. And the Gemara asks a question: how is it possible that David HaMelech had made this mistake? What's the mistake? There is a small limb inside a man. When you starve it, it is satisfied. When you feed it, it is hungry. Meaning that if a person doesn't involve themselves, then they are satiated, which is very unusual. Generally, if a person is eating, they're satiated. When they're not eating, they're hungry. This is unique. This limb is a special limb. The more you feed it, the more it wants to eat.
The bite of the forbidden fruit.
I don't know about the fruit. I just about this particular thing here. Okay, so a man ever katan. It says, and that's what you were quoting. So that's what David HaMelech mistake was. The question you have to ask is, why is Malchut not in the Shemona Esrei? That's still a legitimate question.
Bnei Yerushalayim. Hamachazir she'echato letzion.
What did David miss?
The target.
He missed something. Adonai sefatai tiftach ufi agiti latecha. What did he miss?
The key.
The Malchut. If you don't have the Malchut, you're not even praying yet. So in order to get to the bracha, which is Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, the first thing you have to go through is the Malchut.
So he is there.
He's not in the bracha.
There.
He's the before the bracha.
He's
the heichi timsi. He's the necessary piece for the bracha to commence. If a person doesn't go through the Malchut, there's no bracha. That's why it says a man that is without a woman has no bracha. Has no choma, has no wall. Wall. What is the purpose of a wall?
To guard yourself, to protect yourself.
Really, to protect yourself from enemies, yes? So you mean to tell me if a man is married, she's going to take the gun with the AR-15 and go shoot the guy first? That's going to be the end of that marriage if she's got to go out first and shoot. Part of chivalry is you go first, okay? And then hopefully you get the guy, right? Honey, you know what? You're in the wall over there, so why don't you take the gun and go shoot the bad guy? I'm going to go hide behind the bed. I mean, if there's anything more amasculine than that, I don't know what is. Yes? What does it mean she's his wall? Simple meaning is she protects him from sin. Deeper meaning, there are walls of a keli.
Of course,
she's his utensil. I mean, not in the bad way. She's his keli. When someone has things to give, it's very difficult not to have a recipient to receive it.
Mm-hmm. There's nowhere.
I'll give you an example. For 5 weeks, I was in New York. This class, I didn't give for 5 weeks on this topic, on this subject, in this book. Shaare, Orah, I didn't give this. There was no posting on this one. For me, it was painful. Painful, because I love this class. I come to Boca, and even though I have 1 or 2 people, 3 people, amazing. That's all I need. I don't need a big keli, just a big keli with people who are interested, and to be able to study this material, amazing. To have the ability to give and no one to receive is awful. Now we think about God. Let's understand from God's perspective. He has no emotions. But let's understand from our language. God wants to give to every human being on the planet. Who prevents that giving? We do. Right? As Jews, are we behaving the way we're supposed to be? Are we mamlechet kohanim v'goy kadosh? Are we doing the best we can? Gentiles, guys, you've inherited lies from your fathers. It's time to come home. There's one God. His name is Yud-Kei Vav-Kei. Read the Tanakh. Learn Hebrew. Figure it out. Come to Jerusalem. Celebrate the holiday Sukkot when the Mashiach comes. Okay? Because then God can then give to all. But God's limited giving is because of our sins. The potential, he can give unlimited. No question about that, right? What limits the giving? We block the pipes.
Or break them.
We block the pipes. We block, we clog up the pipes. Or we make them narrow.
You mean with our sins?
Yes. And what's the biggest sin a person can do? Not recognizing Yud-Kei Vav-Kei. The whole purpose of creation of the world, the whole purpose is to be revealing the kavod of God in the world. And that's the mission. For ourselves and for everybody else. That's why Chilul Hashem is such a big sin, and Kiddush Hashem is such a big mitzvah. Because when you're Mekadesh Hashem, people say, oh my God, that's a Jew. Wow, look at that. Holy moly, I want to be like that. I want to do that. Oh my God, that's a Jew. I can't believe he did that. We have to be better marketers. Okay, let's finish this up. We got a little more time. I have another couple minutes. I can go on forever. Fortunately or unfortunately.
Let's do a couple of minutes.
Okay. It's like we discussed yesterday. Why does a person get tired? Because they're involving themselves in the mundane matters, right? I'm still going. I promise you, if you want to go till 5, I can do it. I just need another cup of coffee. I'm good to go. The focus. The key is the focus, right? If you're focused.
You are teaching.
I know. I get it. I hear it. I 100%. I hear it. I hear it. I agree with you. I agree with you 100%, Chuck. I agree with you. But remember, you're not here. I can't do it. So I need you here. Otherwise, I love it. All right, let's continue on. I want to do another class this week on Tikkunei Zohar, by the way. I want to do another class on Tikkunei Zohar. We have to talk about that, okay? We'll talk about when we finish up. Let's see. Continue on. Now watch this. Watch the Sodot. You cannot understand the Peshat, the simple meaning, unless you understand the Sod. It says here, Har Kodshi. What does it mean, the mount, my holy mountain? We said Har HaMoriah, right? The Sod of Har Kodshi is El Chai. What is El Chai? What does that mean? Living power. El is power. Chai is alive. Right? What is unique about the temple, Har HaMoriah? You experience Yud-Kei Vav-Kei. You come to the temple. There are 10 miracles that happen every single day in the temple. When you come to the temple, man or woman, you experience Yud-Kei Vav-Kei. There's no doubt. Because there are miracles that happen. There's no flies. It's a big slaughterhouse. There's no flies. There's a Mizbeach that's open. You know, if the Mizbeach is inside a building, then everybody would die of carbon monoxide poisoning. The Mizbeach is what happens when it's raining in Jerusalem in December. The fire doesn't go out. It could be pouring cats and dogs. A person comes to the temple, it's pouring cats and dogs. You look at the fire in the Mizbeach, nothing happening to it. There's a plume of smoke that's coming from the Ketoret. It's going one way to the Shamayim. If there's wind, it doesn't make a difference. It's still one line to the Shamayim. Wind, hurricane, make no difference. A person's on the way to the temple. From Yericho, which is 50 miles away, you're already smelling the incense. So it's an experience of the living God.
The intention of going, you're already smelling 50 miles.
And why smell so important? Because smell is the most primitive sense. And if your father was doing the right thing in taking you to the temple since you're a child, that smell, as soon as you're within distance, you know that smell. What's that smell? I'm going to experience the living God. Wow! And there's music and there's song. It's an experience of God. That's why it's El Chai, meaning El, power, God, yes? And Chai, not dead. You go to a church, dead God. How do you know?
Because you see it with blood and how's it start? That's a Catholic.
Dead God. There was a hospital in New York, Catholic hospital, and they invited a couple of people from the Jewish community that was close by because they wanted to have a hospice unit, and they wanted to know, they want to be culturally sensitive, they want to accommodate. I was in a room with a bunch of rabbis. Okay, everybody's afraid to mention the real issue. So they say, is there anything that we can do to make it more appealing to Jewish people? Looking around, everybody knows what they got to say, but no one's got the balls to say it. So what happens? The doctor says it. I said, listen, I got to tell you. If we have a Jewish person who's not feeling well, sick, and they may be dying, and they're in the bed, and they look up, and they see, what's his name, on a cross hanging, it's not going to be exactly where they want to look at. If you could be so kind, is when you identify a Jewish patient, you take the cross off. It's the last thing we want to see. You want to have that cross in your room? That's okay, but we don't want to see that. So 80 years, 90 years, this Jew is believing in God and he sees the hanging guy. No, we don't want to see that. So meaning what? That's called a funeral. Dead God. Mamash. Mamash, a dead God. They think he resurrected. No, he didn't. He's still dead. Okay? Okay. Bet tefilati. What is bet tefilati? Who can tell me the answer to that? Bet tefilati. What is the sort of that? Bait. Feminine. What's the purpose of a house? You go inside the house. The house is empty until people are inside. Bait is feminine. Tefilati. Bet tefilati. Yesod Adonai. Aleph Daled Nud Yud. Which is feminine. Adonai sfatay tiftach ofi agiti latecha. What do we say? That's the feminine. The malchut. V'halashon mamash mochiach al shtei midot. And the language of this pasuk is telling us about these two attributes, the yesod and the malchut. Zachor, shamor. Zachor, masculine. Shamor, feminine. V'im chas v'shalom adam mechalel et Shabbat. And if, God forbid, a person is mechalel Shabbat, ki'ilu, it's as if kafar ba'ikar. He denied the existence of God. Lefisha Shabbatu ikar ha'ilan milamata lamala. Wow, because the Shabbat is the essential parts of the tree from below to above. Because the lower part of the tree is the malchut, and then the next one is the yesod. So if a person is denying those two, there's no tree. What happens if I take an axe and I cut the tree at the bottom? Falls down.
What? It falls down?
The yesod and the malchut is the keeps the tree standing.
Absolutely.
Wait, it'll grow back if you uproot it.
Depends on the
No,
no. If you
you're
cut a
studying
tree
it.
down, it doesn't necessarily grow back.
Well,
How is it getting energy? It's getting water, but it's not
the
getting
roots,
photosynthesis.
do
Where's
all. Where did you get that
roots is for water. Where does it get nourishment from?
Shamai,
The leaves, photosynthesis.
water.
So we see when a person mehalel Shabbat, what's happening? They are uprooting the zachar and nekeva of the Shabbat. Therefore, it's keilu kafar ba'ikar.
Terrible.
When a person is mehalel Shabbat, since Shabbat has two qualities, has the qualities of the masculine and feminine, not observing the Shabbat. Person is profaning the Shabbat. By the way, profaning the Shabbat is not just lo ta'aseh. Profaning the Shabbat is also mitzvot ta'aseh he's not doing. He's not doing kiddush. He's speaking about things that are not Shabbosdik. He's talking about business, talking about the stock market, talking about sports. That's all. Okay, if he's talking about his wife and he's in his house, there's nothing wrong with that, okay? But there are things that you cannot talk about on Shabbat that you're allowed to talk. You can't talk about women all week long, except if it's your wife and to your wife, right? But technically, you're allowed to talk about sports. You're allowed, well, not sports. Sports might be a waste of time. You're allowed to talk about the stock market business. You're allowed to talk about business on other days, not Shabbat. When a person is speaking things that are not Shabbos appropriate, they're mehalel Shabbat, not from a Torah perspective, okay? But it's a violation of the Shabbat. That's why it's so grave. All right, we'll stop here.
Please.
Okay, Baruch Adonai le'olam, amen ve'amen.
Wow, another 3 hours. Yesterday we did 3 hours.